Honey, the cat is missing. Honey, the cat is missing. It's all about coincidence here in Pontypool.
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
You ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Let's rock indeed. Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird. I'm Brad Hefner. And with me as always is my co-host,
Billy Martell.
And this is a podcast. It's a celebration of weird movies. And this time, it's also a celebration of my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
As Saint Frosty the Snowman once said.
Did he say that?
When did he say that?
Did he say that to baby Jesus at the manger?
Have you not seen the Frosty the Snowman special?
It's been almost 30 years, probably.
Every time he gets brought to life, he says, "Happy birthday!"
Oh.
And this continues when he eventually gets a family of snowmen, a wife, and baby snowmen, and he meets up with Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. They all say happy birthday when they are killed and brought back to life.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Do you think Jesus said that on his resurrection day?
Just maybe quietly to himself because he was sneaking out.
Did it. Happy birthday.
Sneaking out past the sleeping Roman soldiers is just like, happy birthday to me. And he ran off.
Maybe he said it sadly because no one else was like, everyone was just like, where did Buddy go? It's like,
nobody else cares that I'm here.
But yeah, 5 years ago, almost to this day, on the previous iteration of this podcast, for my birthday, for whatever reason, I wanted to talk about Pontypool, one of my absolute favorite movies.
I mean, why wouldn't you want to talk about Pontypool?
So we're doing it again, since we already talked about Repo Man, one of my other favorite movies.
Yes.
Pontypool, this is a movie that definitely benefits, as all movies do, from knowing as little about it as possible.
In fact, it's almost hard to tell you what the movie is about without giving away spoilers.
Yeah. So I thought about this. Here's how we're going to describe it.
Okay.
You know, in horror movies, characters are usually listening to some sort of news broadcast in the background, or it's playing to give you exposition.
Yeah.
This is a story told from the side of that radio broadcast.
Right.
From the station doing that during the horror story.
So, like in the old campfire story about, oh no, the car radio says there's a maniac with a hook for a hand in town.
Sure.
This is like if it was a story about the news announcer getting the teletype across the wire, being like, oh man, there's a maniac with a hook for a hand out and about.
Or even in the commentary for Pontypool, they talk about the Dead movies, like. It's said that when there's no more room in hell, or there's people eating everywhere, there's reports of cannibalism across the state.
Right. Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a fair description of the film. Absolutely.
So we're probably going to be talking a lot about this movie. So let's get the top done quickly. Billy, obviously, I would recommend it.
Yes.
Because it's one of my favorites. Billy,
Absolutely.
would you recommend Pontypool?
I would absolutely recommend Pontypool. My first introduction to this movie was back in college. My roommate at the time was big into a genre this movie falls into, and showed the film to me right before he and everybody else on campus left for a break, and I was going to be on campus alone. We watched the movie, and then I was stuck in a building with a lot of corridors alone at night. This movie, to this day, I've seen a lot of movies. We've seen a lot of movies for this show. We've seen a lot of movies in life. This movie scares the shit out of me every time I watch it.
It's very effective.
Consistently. It's so good.
It's so good.
It's definitely one of those kinds of horrors that gets under your skin, though. This is not like a... what's the other one that we watched for this that I said was really scary?
Imprint?
Imprint. This isn't like Imprint where I was like, gross!
No, this is pure horror.
This is pure...
This is horror in its purest form.
Hitchcockian horror.
And... yeah, and that's part of why it's on this show is, one, it's just a good film, and it's severely underrated and underknown.
There's nothing like it.
But again, this is sort of a non sequitur, but to give its weird bona fides. It's unique.
It really is.
I don't believe I've ever seen a horror film like this.
No, this is the kind of movie that the show is for.
Absolutely.
You will never see another movie like Pontypool ever.
No.
There is one piece of media that I could compare it to, and I don't want to say it for fear of giving too much of the plot away.
Okay.
But I will mention it once we get into the spoiler section. But like, there's only one thing I could compare it to, and it's not even a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll bring it up if you remember to later.
I will. It's in my notes.
I'm gonna give a little bit of my personal background on the story.
Sure.
On this movie. But again, if you have any interest in horror films, stop this.
Yes.
Go watch Pontypool. I don't think the DVD is that expensive.
No.
It's also, if you have a Shudder subscription, I believe it's on Shudder.
This is like a low-budget Canadian movie, so
Yes.
it got one DVD release ages ago. It has not been. It needs a Blu-ray, but like it's not been released on Blu-ray.
I first heard about this movie through... I talked on the Let It Ride episode about an internet user named Jay Trotter,
Okay.
who made lists on a site called Listall.
Right.
Of obscure, bizarre, and underrated films, and this was on that list.
Right.
And it was on Netflix at the time. So, one night, I used to put on movies a lot to just sleep during, especially horror movies. So it was like...
That's so weird to me.
I'd just be like, this looks like a shitty movie I don't really want to watch. I'll put it
fair
on,
enough.
and I'll go to sleep.
Yeah.
Not that I thought Pontypool was shitty, but I was like, I'll start it, and then I'll finish it tomorrow.
Sure.
So the next day, I actually had court-ordered community service. So I was like, yeah, I'll get to sleep, and I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for my court-ordered community service. I started watching Pontypool. I was hooked immediately, and it scared the shit out of me. This was back when I was unmedicated, as we talked about before.
Yes.
Things used to scare me a lot more. This frightened the fuck out of me, and I could not sleep at all.
You can't. Yeah. No, I distinctly remember, again, my roommate leaves, just like looking down one long corridor, looking down the other long corridor, being like, well, I'm fucked. This is like, I'm not sleeping tonight.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts how effective this film is.
Yeah.
This is a 2008 film directed by Bruce McDonald, who is sort of kind of a big deal in Canada, not a huge deal, sort of an indie director. I guess like they're Kevin Smith, maybe.
Oh, okay. All right.
He rose to prominence with his film Roadkill. He's also known for sort of a mockumentary called Hardcore Logo.
Fun.
It was written by Tony Burgess. He also wrote the book that this is based off of, Pontypool Changes Everything.
Yes.
Now, I've read the book. I read it
Yes.
back 5 years ago in preparation for the original episode. The book does not have a lot in common with the movie.
Right.
In fact, I'll talk a little bit about what the character of Grant Mazzy is in the book a little bit later, but it's very an abstract, nebulous sort of jumping from viewpoint to viewpoint sort of story.
Yeah.
The thing I remember most vividly is two characters have an incest baby, their brother and sister, and the baby is born and it can like walk and it shouts "fuck you" and runs out the door. That's not in this movie.
No, none of that is in this movie. I will say, Tony Burgess, doing a little bit of my own research, Tony Burgess also wrote a movie that came out that we may want to talk about for the show called Fuck My Friends.
Really?
Which is about the consequences of corpse diddling.
Okay. Put that on the board. I mean, I'd assume there's a lot of consequences.
There are definitely some consequences to diddling a corpse. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know that it would be a profitable bit to talk about those consequences.
Probably not. We'll just have to watch the movie and find them for ourselves.
So some of the original ideas for this film, it went through a lot of rewrites.
It was such a sort of like vague book. It makes sense that you wouldn't quite know how to adapt it right off the bat.
So the first idea, they started very small, and then they slowly expanded it. The first idea was it would be entirely audio, and you would just see the voice signature that we're about to talk about, the audio signature that we're about to mention.
Yeah.
It would just be that the entire time. It'd just be Grant Mazzy's voice and the audio signature reflecting it, and that's it.
Fascinating. So it would have been sort of like the horror movie equivalent of the movie Blue.
Sure, I
except
haven't
with
seen
more
Blue.
motion on screen.
But this was also sort of simultaneously, this came out as a CBC radio drama. So it'd be sort of like that, except with a Winamp visualizer.
Right.
That grew into, it would just be a one shot of Grant Massey's face, and you would hear Sidney Brier, and you would hear about Laurel Ann, but it would just be all Grant Massey's face. And obviously I think we got a superior film.
Yes.
But if there was a man who could do that, it's McHattie.
We haven't mentioned McHattie yet.
Let's talk about McHattie in a little bit here.
Okay.
Like I said, this movie grabbed me immediately. We get this wonderful monologue with Stephen McHattie, who plays Grant Massey. His smooth voice.
Oh my God.
He's talking about Mrs. French's cat, Honey, who has gone missing. The gist of the monologue is a series of linguistic coincidences that lead Massey to repeat the word Pontypool over and over again. The movie is already establishing ideas that are going to come into play as both words meaning different things. Honey, the cat is missing could mean Honey is the name of the cat that is missing, or Honey, my dear, the cat is missing.
Right, yes. And also terms of endearment will become weapons later
Absolutely.
on.
And the fact that repeating a word makes it lose meaning.
Yes.
Pontypool, Pontyflock, Pontypool. It's
Pontypool, by the way, real town.
Real place.
In Canada that this movie takes place in.
In Ontario, I believe.
In Ontario.
The title slowly fades in, letter by letter. For a moment, just the word typo is on screen.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Also, by the way, the DVD release, at least that I own, is distributed by every film snob's favorite distributor, IFC.
Yes.
Yes.
Love the ending of the monologue. What does it mean? Well, it means something's about to happen. Something big. But then something's always about to happen.
The writing in this movie is so fucking tight.
It's amazing.
It's so beautiful. It's like it feels like this was a stage play that got adapted into a movie.
And we've talked about that aspect of this film before. Like it's not like a daily conversation where we phone each other up and we're like, how can we stage horror for theater?
Right, yeah. But we
talk about it.
Yeah.
And Pontypool is the closest thing I've ever seen to that happening.
I agree. I think that Pontypool absolutely could work on stage.
Finally, we get some visuals, aside from just the audio signature that accompanied Grant's monologue. We see Grant Massey, a local radio host, driving in a snowstorm. And this is just the small details. Like, he's basically driving in a black void. You see snow. It's really well shot.
Oh, yeah.
He's yelling at his agent because he's not happy working in a podunk town, doing a morning show. He's also listening to his own show.
Yes. I mean, so he's one of us.
Yeah, no. I listen to our show frequently.
Oh, yeah, same.
He throws his cell phone down and it starts ringing again, so Grant pulls off to the side of the road. And here, like, the monologue hooked me because it was interesting, but here's where I first started to get, like, scared.
Yeah. Got to start to get into it.
A hand slaps the passenger side window. A well-dressed woman is outside speaking so we can't understand her. Like, that unnerved me. She, like, it's just barely unintelligible. Grant rolls down the window as the woman backs away into nothing but snow and darkness. Like, there's no trees or anything.
She's repeating something over and over again under her breath. Repeating it.
Grant yells, "Hey," and she mimics his voice back to him. "Hey, hey, hey." And then the same when he asks, "Who are you?" And it echoes in the darkness. Now, Grant Massey is played by one of our favorite actors of all time. Primarily from this movie.
Yes.
But every time I see him, I'm happy I see him.
Yes.
Stephen McHattie.
Most people probably, if anyone knows Stephen McHattie, at least Star Trek fans like myself will probably know him as the originator of the "it's a fake" meme, which is, Brad has no idea what I'm talking about. This is a Star Trek fan thing. But if you've ever seen a picture of a Romulan going, "It's a fake," that's Stephen McHattie. If you see any other clip but that, you see him giving one of the best performances in any episode of Star Trek ever, because he's Stephen McHattie, and that's what he fucking does. But he's incredible, and he, aside from this movie and like a couple of films in Canada that neither of us have seen, he does not get the due that he is
does
worth.
not. He does not.
Yeah.
He should be at least on the level of a Harry Dean Stanton.
Absolutely. Wonderful character actor.
He was in the Elijah Wood movie Come to Daddy. Too little of him, unfortunately.
as the original Daddy.
Yes, as Daddy Numero Uno, as he's credited.
Uno. That's
a Mexican production. He was also Hollis Mason in Watchmen.
That's the other thing that people probably know him best from. Yeah, the Romulan meme and Hollis Mason.
And again, he does not get enough to do in that movie. No. There's a great deleted scene where he gets to kick a little ass.
So if you've seen the Ultimate Cut, you've seen that.
He was in something called Pterodactyl Women of Beverly Hills.
Of course he was.
Which sounds like something we need to look up.
Yes.
He was in the movie Shoot 'Em Up.
Okay.
That's a decent movie.
I haven't seen it.
I hope Paul Giamatti's in that as well. Oh. I hope Stephen McHattie and Paul Giamatti had a lot of good times.
I would love for there to be a movie about Paul Giamatti being like a down in his luck idiot and trying to get out of some deal with the mob, and Steve McHattie's the mob boss is like, if you get me the money or I collect your tongue or something like that.
Here's what I was thinking. Paul Giamatti's down on his luck, and Stephen McHattie's like this older grifter who's like, I'll help you out, but I'm really just going to fuck you over more.
Even better. Paul Giamatti's down in his luck. Paul Giamatti's down in his luck. Stephen McHattie's the devil.
Okay.
This is like, I can help you for your soul. It'd be fantastic.
Stephen McHattie would be an amazing devil.
He would be.
And he's also in another one of our favorites, Mother.
He's
the zealot.
That's right. He's blink and you'll miss it. Oh, and he was just in the recent Guillermo del Toro film.
Oh yeah, he has a very small part in Nightmare Alley.
In which you blink and you miss it, but he was fantastic.
And I did blink and I did miss it.
We both blinked and missed it. But yeah, no, Stephen McHattie is one of our favorite actors. All of our favorite actors are character actors.
Yeah.
He's like god tier.
Absolutely.
And this opening scene, I love it because we've talked a little bit about this in terms of like horror movies and how simple horror stories can be to be effective. Mm-hmm. This opening is literally the opening of a Night Gallery episode.
Yep.
Like it's so simple. It establishes Grant Massey's character archetype.
Yeah, he's full of himself because he's listening to his own show. He's unhappy with his place in life.
Yeah, he's like he has the all you have to do is have a guy coming in being like, but Marty, you're my agent. You gotta get me out of here. I'm in the middle of nowhere. You're good. And then the monster comes out of the woods, out of the snow, and then disappears back into it.
There's also, aside from language and all of that, this movie also has a lot of themes of loneliness and isolation.
Yes, definitely.
Which Grant is driving alone in his car, which is just another glass booth that he's trapped inside of.
Oh, yeah.
Just surrounded by nothing. Which is how he feels when he's in the studio or in Pontypool at all. Grant used to be a big city radio DJ, but got bumped down to the farm league.
Absolutely.
Grant goes to the studio where his space is reserved by a laminated piece of paper. That's how rinky-dink and low rent. They're operating out of
a basement of a church.
It's not clear if the church is still in operation,
right? Yeah,
or if it's a defunct church or what. But either way, it's rinky-dink and low rent.
Very, very rinky-dink. I also love how Grant Massey seems to be very much based on like Imus.
He wears a cowboy hat.
But these sort of like larger than life radio personalities, and the guy who I cannot remember the name of that I'm trying to talk about, and Imus in particular, like they have these incredible voices, but they also have these larger than life personal styles that they go along with it. And even though Steve McHattie is just like a normal looking guy, although I mean his face is iconic, but like normal looking guy with like a normal hair, they have made up for that by giving him like a big cowboy hat.
He's dressed like he's from the Southwest.
He looks like a wrestler. He's got like rings on every finger, and he does this thing whenever he's like stressed, where he like just like he whips out his fingers,
opens his palm, and slowly closes it in front of his face.
I
love it. I love it so much.
Bruce Lee about to deliver a killing blow, and it's establishing that character and this weird, eccentric, full of himself asshole.
Inside the studio, we meet Laurel Ann Drummond. I love Laurel Ann. I love her voice. I love the little smiles the actress gives.
Oh, yes.
We're going to praise McHattie a lot.
Yes.
But all the actors and the actresses in this film do great, except for Dr. John Mendez. I've warmed up to Dr. John on this episode.
I like Dr. Mendez.
Yeah, but the actresses knock it out of the park. The actress is Georgina Riley, and she actually lived in England until she was 16.
Oh.
So she is doing an accent, technically.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed. I will say, speaking of the actor, the only performance I'm not sure about is the performance of Osama bin Laden.
Okay.
But we'll get to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Grant...
That's just to throw off people who decided to ignore going to see the movie, and now they're like,
Yes.
what the fuck is going on?
Osama bin Laden? Hold on, what genre is this? Here's where I noted that Grant is a fucking heathen. Because he has asked Laurel Ann to get him some whiskey for his coffee in the morning, and he specifically requests the good stuff, which I believe, I didn't catch it on this watch, but later we'll see Sydney drinking some Glenfiddich single malt whiskey, and Grant pours it in his fucking coffee. You don't mix the good stuff. It's good because you drink it on its own.
Right.
Unless this is a character thing where it's like, Grant is so full of himself that he's like, even though I'm mixing it with my coffee, I still need extremely expensive whiskey.
I mean, yeah, it might just be like a thing. Is Jameson whiskey considered the good stuff?
It's like mid-level.
It's mid-level? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, because I took a semester abroad. I studied in Ireland in college. And we went to the Jameson factory to do a tour.
Oh.
First time I ever had whiskey was at the end. They gave us samples. So I took a straight shot, which was a mistake.
Okay.
For first time ever whiskey, just like, mouth is on fire. But then they also gave shots mixed with cranberry juice, with ginger ale, and just with various sodas and stuff. And I wanted to know if that was sacrilege.
I wouldn't consider it. I have a friend who mixes Jameson with Diet Coke.
Okay.
There are worse things, but generally, if you're going to mix stuff, you might as well just get the cheapest stuff because you're mostly going to be tasting the mixer.
Right, yeah. I know nothing about any of this stuff, which is why I asked.
I mean, technically, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
True. It is America.
It is
after all.
America. You
Not
can't...
Canada, like in this movie.
Canada has too much of a French element to truly be about freedom.
Right, no. They'll never know the taste of freedom fries.
No, they won't. We slap them out of their dirty cocksucking mouths. Oh, what is this? I will have the freedom fries. Not today, limey, which is British people, but that's how much I disrespect your country. I won't even call you the right slur. The station is located on Drum Street. Now, I just want to point out some of these names. Grant, Laurel, Drum. All things, but also people's names. Like,
That's
you can
right,
get a
yeah. Grant,
or you can be talking about Grant.
Yeah.
You can receive a Laurel, or we could be talking about Laurel Ann. It's Drum Street. Is it a drum, or is it a It's all these little confusions and repetitions.
All the double meanings.
Yes.
Meaning is very important in this movie.
As Grant starts his show, he introduces his producer, Sidney Breyer. Again, Breyer, a thing and a name. Sydney, a place.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's actually spelled like the capital of Australia.
Like the capital of Australia.
Sydney is played by Lisa Houle. I'm going to assume is how you pronounce the name.
I'm not sure.
She's kind of obscure, so
There is precious little information about her online.
But she is married to McHattie.
Which is awesome.
That is great, and they have a lot of great chemistry.
Yes. Were they married when this movie was made?
I believe so.
Okay.
Because
well,
Wikipedia says
cute.
that they were married sometime in the 90s.
Right.
And this came out 2008, so unless they took a break...
Yeah. I mean, adorable. That's great.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And here's where I was looking at Wikipedia, and I saw that there is a spin-off movie to Pontypool called Dreamland, which we will talk about at the end, I suppose.
Sure. I will say one of the coolest things about this movie for me is we mentioned that it feels very much like a play.
Yes.
The dialogue is very flowery. It feels sort of like Angels in America almost, with
Sure.
like all of the sort of like playing with language and stuff. But at the same time, as theatrical as the movie is, it feels so real.
It does.
The characters feel like real. Every single one of them, the ones we see and the ones that we don't,
Yes.
feel like real people. Totally. Pontypool, it is a real place, but the Pontypool of this movie feels like a real place.
Again, the actors kill it so hard. Everyone's so natural.
So
Everyone's
hard.
just doing a fantastic job. Where it's like,
Yeah.
again, Georgina Riley didn't go on to do a lot of other. She's not huge.
No,
Everyone in this movie should be big stars.
I completely agree. This movie's so good.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say you were on the radio.
Okay.
What would your DJ name be?
My DJ name. Oh man, what kind of music do I play on this?
Well, it
station?
could be music or it could be talk. Well, what do you want to
okay.
do? What's your format?
Oh goodness. The minute you ask me anything like this, would be every DJ name I've ever thought of goes out of my brain. I think I would want to play. I think I would want to talk about comic books, probably.
Okay.
Because that's like
Sounds more like a podcast than a radio show.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I would talk about comic books, and I would feature music that I think evokes the comic books I'm talking about.
Okay.
So it'd be sort of like Casey Kasem, except instead of giving
A top 40
Fun-
of music.
and instead of giving fun facts about the music in between the songs, I give fun facts about comic books no one cares anything about before I play songs.
Okay, so you're still playing songs.
I'm still playing
Do you
songs.
just play the jazz soundtrack to the 60s Spider-Man cartoon?
that and the jazz soundtrack and the beach rock soundtrack to the 60s Batman show, the Evanescence song from the Daredevil movie.
Yeah. Wake me up inside.
Wake me up. I'm gonna be late for work. Just anything like that, and I would call myself DJ comic book guy. I can't think of anything clever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sure.
Are you going to ask me what my...
Yeah, what would your
Okay.
DJ name be?
I think I'd be Terry Garbage.
Okay.
And my format would be talk radio.
Okay.
But I'd only take calls from truckers who have killed sex workers.
Oh, thanks, Ticket. Thank you.
And the ghosts of those sex workers.
Well, you're going to be waiting a long time for at least one of those.
Which one?
I don't know.
All
I
right.
can't tell.
We learned that Laurel Ann was a veteran.
Yes, and she was in Afghanistan.
She was in Afghanistan, the good one.
The good
The
one.
good war.
Which I've seen this movie several times. I've been thinking a lot about the Iraq War recently.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of ended.
It's a bit late.
Yeah. I have some thoughts about the fact that she went to Afghanistan, but I think I should save them for closer to the end.
Sure.
All right.
I love how this movie is shot.
Oh,
Everything
yeah.
is very up close and personal. It's a lot of tight shots. We don't get a lot of wide angles.
Sure.
And so it's all dependent on acting, all face acting. And
Because the movie doesn't have a lot of places to go.
No.
It's just these three people. So all of the action, heavy air quotes action, has to be how these characters feel. That's
Yeah.
the entire story, is how these characters feel about what's going on. So yeah, that's the exact right way to shoot it.
and because McHattie's the star and Grant's the star, he's carrying the burden of this movie with his face. Like, he's incredibly expressive. He just knocks it out of the park.
I will say this is some of the most facially expressive acting that you will ever see. Again, feels very real. I'm not saying that these people are like overacting.
No.
But like it's just like a lot of facial expression acting in this movie.
Now we get my second favorite character. After Grant has done his show for a little bit, we get our first call from Ken Loney in the Sunshine Chopper.
Ken Loney.
He gives the traffic reports, and because there's a snowstorm going on outside, Grant
Is concerned.
is half joking, a little bit ribbing,
Yeah.
but he's like, is it safe up there in the snowstorm?
Right. And he's like, oh, I'm going to stay up here and get the traffic. That's not safe, Ken.
And let's stress how low rent this show is. Like, how much of just a local DJ Grant is. He does on-air birthdays. He does obituaries. He reports local news.
He does the local events calendar and
Yep.
everything.
And after we say goodbye to Ken, after he gives his traffic report, he does a fear-mongering little monologue. Like, this is where the Imus, the Rush Limbaugh, the stuff comes in about pot growers. And
now, there's a news item that comes across his desk about how the local police have cracked down on a
grow operation. Well, it's a pre-recorded, like, interview bit with a police captain that he plays, which, in the meantime, just to really hammer home both how pointless pot being illegal is and also how much he does not care about this story before he starts expanding upon it. He and Sydney have a little go back and forth, like, "You smoke pot, Sid?" "Sure do, Grant." "Yeah, hell yeah." And then he goes right back in the ears, like, "Yeah, these fucking pot growers," and like they probably have, and he's just making this shit up. Yeah, just it's all bullshit, like about booby trap.
Is like
grow operations in suburbia
could turn a suburban neighborhood into a death squad.
No, the line is Timmy throws a ball through a window and he triggers a death squad. The way he hits the phrase death squad is so amazing.
That's the important bit. I wrote down at this point, if Stephen McHattie was the host of Welcome to Night Vale, I'd have listened to the whole thing twice by now.
Yes. Sydney tells him to focus on school closures, not his take no prisoners shtick.
Again, I wrote down this note while I was watching the movie. In retrospect, at the end, I think I have a different thought, but I will say that watching through the movie now, I wrote, Grant Mazzy was easier to feel bad for before being a reactionary pundit who makes shit up for views became not funny anymore in the last few years.
Yeah.
That was a reaction I had when watching this movie this time. But again, I think that there's something more. I think that that's intentional on the movie's part. I think that you're supposed to be like, he kind of deserves this on some level. And also, he has a bit right after this. He says, you have to stick to this. You have to stick to doing the thing. And he's like, well, I'm trying to piss people off.
Yes.
And if I piss someone off,
then they tell their brother, and tell their barber.
And that's how you create a listening audience. That's how you get engagement. And I was like, looking back on that from the end, it's almost like an infection that spreads through words.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Show.
I think you're right.
And I think that that's the point. I think
even if it's not intentional, it's still a great thing to take from the movie.
Yeah.
And again, like, it's clear that Grant is a grifter. So it's not being like,
he's not a true believer.
No, so you're not like, this idiot, he's wrong for what he's doing, for the fear-mongering and all that. But at the same time, you're like, at least he knows what he's doing is bullshit. He doesn't believe it. He's not a zealot.
No, he's not a zealot. He's not... Actually, it's impossible to tell which of these pundits know what they're... believe what they're saying and which ones don't, so I'm not even going to name a name.
But Sydney hates it, but Laurel Ann she digs it. She digs Grant's vibe. Mm-hmm. She seems to be a fan.
She seems to have a bit of a crush on him. Like, that just is the whole vibe from her.
And one thing I appreciate is that, again, Grant is our quote-unquote hero, but he's not pervy to Laurel Ann. Like, he seems like he could easily take advantage of that.
He did, like, give her, like, sort of a smile when he first came in. Like, I think he's...
Oh, my God, a smile.
I think he's... The way of the smile made me think that he was aware.
I'm sure.
I don't think that he would take, at least the way that the character is in this movie, I don't think he would ever take sexual advantage.
No.
But I do think he does take advantage of it insofar as he's like, hey, could you run this errand for me to get the good stuff?
Sure.
Like that sort of advantage.
Because she's not like a PA, she's an engineer.
Exactly. But I
don't think I mentioned, she's the show's engineer.
She still goes and gets him like coffee and whiskey and shit, which she doesn't have to do.
Outside, we see a lost cat poster for Honey. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we hear the woman from earlier repeating, "Who are you?" Still. Grant got the ladies Valentines, which I love.
Yes.
Grant is a good-hearted man. He just has a terrible shtick.
He's just kind of a dick.
Which we see in full display when Grant gets news of a hostage situation involving an ice fishing hut. Mm-hmm. Grant insults the locals and the police, saying that everyone involved was probably drunk.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because he starts reporting on it like it's a very serious issue, because that's his whole thing. He's going to go into it like it's really serious. And Sydney is like, "Come on, Grant. There's just people. It's just people taking the huts off of the thing. It's
the end of the season. They're probably drunk.
They're probably drunk." And he snabs that up midstream and completely changes gears.
Yes.
And turns it into a bit, and then starts making fun of both them, the cops, everybody involved.
Yep.
And takes it way farther. And you can see even Laurel Ann, as much as she's liked everything else he's done, no matter how crazy, even she's starting to get like grim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Grant throws to Ken again, and Sydney comes into the booth and is like, "Hey, those cops actually are alcoholics."
And even Grant, like, his entire face falls.
Yeah.
Like,
and then she tells him that, by the way, Ken Loney is in a Dodge Dart. He's sitting at the top of the hill and he's playing sound effects.
Right.
And everyone in town loves the idea that that they have their own chopper and Ken's up there giving them the reports.
Right. That's the kind of...
It's a beautiful detail.
It's a beautiful detail, and also you can see Grant, like, both Grant and us as the audience are now finally kind of picking up on, that's what we're dealing with here. This is what this town is. And Grant is finally like, you can see that he's still sad.
Yeah.
In fact, I wrote down, I never fully appreciated until watching it for this episode how truly depressed Grant really is.
Yeah. Because I believe here's where we get his little bit about how much he hates winter.
Right. Yeah, he says, "I hate winter." Which is, everyone hates winters.
Not like I do.
Not like I do.
And earlier, when he's reporting on the weather, he describes it as a "please freaking kill me" cold front. Mm-hmm. He hates winter. He feels so lonely and desolate.
And boxed in, as you said. Like, it's and we rarely see Grant out of the booth for about 2/3 of the movie. Mm-hmm. And when it's very telling during the first scene that we do finally see him get out of the booth later. It's very telling. Yeah. But it's just such this great moment. And this is also, like you were talking about, Grant's not a zealot. No. He's not like a true blue asshole. He's an asshole, but he's not like that kind of asshole. When he's corrected, when he's put in his place like this, when she takes the time to like to lay it all out.
When it's no longer a joke.
When it's no longer a joke, and she's not like badgering him while he's trying to talk. Yeah. When she comes in, is like, "Hey, here's what it is," and she lays it all out. He takes that in and he absorbs that, and he's like, "Okay." Mm-hmm. And he interacts with Ken Loney several more times. Yes. He never jokes about the dark.
No, absolutely not.
And he stops with all the, like, even the ribbing about, like, "Are you safe up there, Ken?" Yeah. Like, he stops with all that. He corrects himself.
Yeah. And he also realizes that Ken is safe, so he doesn't need to worry about that.
Right.
Grant has a mug that says "wanna hump" and has a picture of a camel. Again, another multi-meaning word that can cause confusion.
Oh my God. There you go.
Sydney is talking to Laurel Ann, telling her that the fishing hut story was serious, not just drunk annex, and the police want them to drop it. We're about 20 minutes in, and not a lot has happened. The intro is so quick, but I feel it really tides us over until things start to get really freaky. Still, I love everything so far. The camera work is on point. The acting is great. It brings out the smoothness of the writing, and we just glide through almost a half hour.
Absolutely. I honestly, until you just said that, I had no idea that was 20 minutes in.
Yep.
I would have told you that was 10 at most, 5 maybe.
And now here's where the vibe starts to change. Ken calls Sydney, and he's freaking out. Great detail. Sydney says okay, and immediately after, during his broadcast, Grant says okay, echoing her words, like the repetition, and also how what we will come to know as the conversationalists do. So Grant gets news that there's a large crowd outside the offices of Dr. John Mendez. They are unruly, and goddamn, I love McHattie's voice.
Oh my God. Local doctor who has been recently cited for giving unnecessary prescriptions. Yeah. Which I was confused by that detail. Like, is that important, or am I reading into that too much?
I have no clue. I might just be some color. It might just be, I don't know. What unnecessary prescription would you ask for?
I think that's the pot thing again.
Okay.
I think it's going back to the pot. I think that's what it was. I
imagine more like painkillers, something like that.
Oh, that could be. Well, that would be causing way more harm than the pot if that's the case. But I think that's what I was thinking is like going back to sort of like the drug scare again.
I would ask for, when people lose their legs and they get those blades.
Oh,
that would be my unnecessary prescription.
Your unnecessary.
I would go to the pharmacy.
Full unnecessary surgery.
Well, yeah, but I'd still go to the pharmacy for it.
Right, yeah.
I'd have them chop off my legs there.
Just in the back room.
Yeah.
Where they have the snack cakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just
the medicinal snack cakes.
The medicinal snack cakes.
Filled with polio vaccine.
Right. No, I'm imagining you're like in the Wegmans pharmacy or the Rite Aid or something, and they just like, you're right next to the fruit snacks, and they just like cut off.
Bam.
Whop off your
leg.
I
guess I'd go back to the meat department. They'd use the saw, take off my leg.
That makes sense.
Put me in a shopping cart.
Yeah.
Push me up to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know much about surgery. I assume they screw them on.
I assume
they put threads on my
Based
bones.
on the medical documentary that we watched for the show Machine Girl.
Yes.
That's exactly how that works.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll talk to my doctor. I'll slip him $20. Say, hey, write me a prescription for the Oscar Pistorius special.
Based on everything that I know about the medical field, based on avoiding going to the doctor for a long time because I don't have insurance, $20 sounds right. Should be fine. Ken
talks to Grant. He's still playing his chopper noises. This is so fucking incredible. Mm-hmm. And again, here's where the movie sort of lulls you down.
Oh, yeah.
And then you start to get fucking terrified again. Because the actor who voices Ken Loney, Rick Roberts, fucking kills it.
Oh, my God.
Ken is...
You never see Ken.
Never.
Ken is so alive.
Absolutely.
When I think about this movie, I don't always remember Dr. Mendez.
Because that's the weaker part of the film.
More just because, like, he's in so little of it.
True.
And I don't remember the theater troupe. I don't remember Osama.
I always remember the theater troupe.
I don't remember Osama bin Laden, but I always remember Ken. I remember the three people who are always there, and I remember Ken. He's such a part of the cast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ken tells Grant that hundreds of people are trying to get into the offices of Dr. John Mendez, and suddenly the building bursts open. This visual image, because again, it's just voice, and we're watching Grant's reaction. But in my mind, when I think of this building bursting open, I picture concrete, not wood or whatever. And it's just
brick, at least.
Brick. It's just the idea that so many people can just deliriously jam themselves into a building that it causes concrete to burst is horrifying to me.
Absolutely.
And Rick Roberts is selling every inch of this.
The descriptions that he gives of,
but it's
the building like bursting open. Like I forget the simile he uses for the wall, but like the wall just collapsing or just like bursting like a bubble, and people just sort of like overwhelming the entire structure.
And
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Glorious.
And again, it's very natural sounding dialogue. It's not this faux like overwritten thing. It's just a terrified man describing what he's seeing.
Yeah.
Which has been his job. It's just never been this terrifying before. He's always just been sitting on that hill describing what he's seeing.
Right.
And now...
And I'm not saying anything that like hasn't been said a million times before, but the strength of radio drama and the strength of any movie where they like prevent you from seeing something is that what's in your mind is always scarier than what you can see.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
That's what the thing that I was going to say. Now that we've gotten to this point, I can, again, if you decided to ignore the spoiler warning and just dove into this part, now that we've revealed this, that essentially much of the movie is going to be people in a radio station hearing about horrible things happening.
Yes.
The thing that most closely reminds me of this movie, or that this movie most closely reminds me of, is Orson Welles' famous War of the Worlds broadcast. and I wrote down this is like no War of the Worlds movie has ever made me interested in, it's ever made me interested enough to watch it.
No.
Because that original Orson Welles broadcast is so good.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted like a movie to capture that feeling, and obviously none of the movies can because it's just a bunch of goofy aliens with ray guns. This movie is the best War of the Worlds movie I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Because it does have that, and Ken Loney's performance absolutely like captures that same element of the reporters in that broadcast being like, there are women and children just bursting into flames and just disintegrating in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
It's the ray's coming a little bit closer. It's 100 meters to my right. Cuts out. Like that moment scarred me as a child, and this Ken Loney's performance in this movie
he's fucking
scars
amazing.
me every time I watch it.
He's so goddamn amazing, and again, we've said it, but it cannot be stressed enough that everything we're telling you about the crazy shit that Ken Loney is saying, we do not see. We are just in that radio station.
But it lives in my mind forever.
Absolutely. The crowd is wild. They're trampling people. The military arrives. Ken tries to leave, but can't, and then cuts out. And Grant is genuinely concerned.
At a certain point, he does stop playing the sound effects, by the way.
Yeah.
He stops... I think there's probably like a tape or something he has to keep resetting.
Sure.
He stops it, and you can hear him like, oh man, I can't back out of here. Like, he's so freaked out, he forgets to keep up the pretense.
Yeah, well, at this point, it's survival. Like, there's no reason for him to.
What the fuck would be the point? Yeah.
He's not a professional wrestler, and he can't break kayfabe.
Right, yeah.
Well, how do you think Hulk Hogan would fare in this situation?
Not well.
You don't think
Not
his stringy blonde hair would help him out?
He would just keep throwing the N-word at the bad guys, and
having
like it wouldn't
sex on camera,
having sex on camera. It wouldn't. It just
eating pork.
Or being cuckolded on camera. It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't.
Well, no,
work
he
out for him.
cuckolded someone else.
Oh, he cuckolded someone else.
Yeah.
I thought he was cuckolded
No,
because it was his wife and a radio DJ.
No, it was the wife of the radio DJ.
Oh, it was the wife of the radio DJ.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Allegedly, but yes, no, he wouldn't fare well.
Who do you think the wrestler who would do the best job at being Ken Loney would be?
Roddy Piper.
Okay,
Yeah.
but he'd just get down there and kick ass.
That's true. Okay, never mind. It would be the Macho Man Randy Savage, just because I want to hear him on the radio.
The walls burst open. Oh yeah!
It's like the Kool-Aid Man. Yeah. Just the walls are burst open and everyone's snapping into Slim Jims. Oh yeah! Miss Elizabeth, you were right. Gotta get into a different field. The Slim Jim choppers.
Let me at those kiddos. That joke will be funny a little bit later.
A little bit later.
All of this is so incredibly brilliant. And listening to the commentary, I don't know. This almost feels like an accident in some ways.
Sometimes brilliance happens by accident.
Because of the commentary is not particularly useful if you want to know about Pontypool, but very useful if you want to know about their plans, which might still exist for Pontypool 2 and 3, which would be called Pontypool Changes and Pontypool Changes Everything. Great naming scheme.
Sure.
But it sounds like they wanted to do something much more... They describe the next two movies as more violent and perverse and...
Sure, like the book.
Distasteful.
Like
so, like, it feels like this is sort of a budget thing where it's like, we're making this because we can't do anything else.
We've said repeatedly, I don't know if we've said it on the show, but we've said it repeatedly to each other and just in real life, like, art through adversity makes the best art.
Yeah.
I don't remember who said it. Somebody, some great artist, some great director that I really respect said, the worst...
McG.
Sure, yeah, McG. The worst thing that can ever happen to a director is that he gets everything he wants.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so they're like I mentioned on the show, it blew my mind when I found out that Rear Window was never supposed to all happen in that one room.
Yeah.
That was a suggestion from somebody else, and Hitchcock was like, I don't want to do that. And then a couple days later, he was like, that sounded good. We're going to do that. And the same thing with a movie that I love. I used to be a big Tim Burton fan.
Of course.
And
we all make mistakes.
Sure. And I've realized going forward how much of the good parts of his movies are either from other people or sheer accident.
Yeah.
Like, I love the movie Batman Returns. It's one of my favorites of Burton's movies.
But that wasn't even supposed to happen. Michael Keaton just came back to the set in the suit, and he's like, Batman Returns. Get me my typewriter.
And Michael Keaton himself wrote the whole movie.
Yep.
That he famously didn't like doing. But yeah, no, I used to think, oh man, see, Burton's such a cool artist and he's trying to get out, but he's like being hampered. No, Burton was completely fucking around and had no idea what was going on. Anything brilliant that came out of that movie happened sheerly by accident. The best part of that movie is the plot of the fact the Penguin's master plan is to kill every firstborn baby in Gotham City.
Oh, I really need to rewatch Batman Returns, because I don't remember that the Penguin also doubled as King Herod.
Right. No,
no, the 10th plague, I guess.
Right, yeah.
King Herod also killed a bunch of babies.
He did. He actually killed a whole bunch of babies. But like, yeah, no, that was his entire plot. And that was a last-minute addition. Their original idea was that he was going to use an ice cannon to freeze the world, which, that brilliant idea had to wait until Batman and Robin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, all this is so incredibly brilliant. This is the reverse of most horror movies. And again, like you said, we never see Ken.
No.
Ken is just a voice, but we are so intensely invested. Also, all this is happening close to the station.
Yes, I think he says that almost immediately when talking. He's like, oh my god, this is like only a couple of miles from the station. Like maybe 10 miles, I think. 10 minutes, I think he says.
But despite all this happening, Laurel, Anne, and Sidney cannot find any official confirmation on the wire about any of this.
And they have a guest.
They have a guest, despite all this chaos. A local community theater.
Yes.
They might use the British term Amdram.
Okay.
For them. But apparently, they're somewhere in Pontypool or the surrounding area. They're doing a musical version of Lawrence of Arabia.
And I
wrote Lawrence and the Arabians.
I wrote down right after just dipping into like the most stressful horror.
Yeah.
We're right back in WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, but
and suddenly like in this becomes an entire bit where like he's like, but we gotta get back to this. Like Grant is the audience. He's like, what, we're doing this?
Yeah,
we gotta get. What was that?
It's great because we feel Grant's frustration.
Yeah,
and like
he's basically, but it becomes this bit where he totally becomes Dr. Johnny Fever, having to do this horse shit, except that he can swear where Dr. Johnny Fever could not, being on TV.
And
so he's like in front of these little, because like it's a production with a bunch of kids.
Lawrence and some Lawrence is played by Tony Burgess, the writer and author.
Is he? Okay,
yes,
cool.
And there are some children in brownface playing.
Oh, everyone's in there's no one who's like racially correct.
Yes,
but everyone's in brownface, and he's like, fuck it, come on, let's do this fucking shit.
But Sidney doesn't want Grant reporting on the story anymore because they can't confirm it. She doesn't want to cause a panic.
Yeah,
and Grant has the great line as he storms back into the booth. Let's find out how the fuck rehearsals are going in fucking Arabia.
That's right.
And we hear a song from the show, the Nefud Desert. Everyone is dressed up, even though it's radio.
Yes.
Because community theater actors are extra as shit.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Wow. The children are in brownface. Also, Osama bin Laden is part of this musical.
Osama bin Laden with a fake machine gun
and
prop.
The beard and the turban. This is...
I don't remember how the song goes, but I wrote down the line.
The Nefud Desert is a sandfield here. If your camel falls down, it cannot hear.
Right. It is a sacred trust to fill it with your blood. It's so bad.
It's so bad, but it's also so perfect because it captures the terrible nature of community theater.
Sure.
And original shows written by people who don't have license to do those things.
In the middle of this, Grant gets another call on his phone from his agent.
Yep.
And he just says... This is Lawrence. He just pulls up his phone and quietly says, "This is Lawrence of Arabia." Pulls it up and like just has them sing it into the phone, and then he goes back and says, "Fuck you" to his agent. And
this is Osama bin Laden.
This is Osama bin Laden. Yeah, fuck you.
So a little,
fuck you, Rick,
a little fun thing is Osama bin Laden at the end of the song does a little ululation. I can't do it, but the the war cry you hear sometimes.
Yes.
And Tony Burgess did not know that was a thing. That was an improvised thing by the actor playing Osama bin Laden.
Oh.
Tony Burgess did not realize that that was like a thing that people sometimes do, and was very pissed off that like the actor did that.
I did not know that when I first saw the movie.
Gotcha.
That was a joke I understood later, which is weird because at first I was just like, that's kind of like in Cobra when they would yell Cobra la 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 la.
Okay.
In G.I. Joe.
No, I figured.
Like that's so in retrospect makes G.I. Joe the movie way more problematic.
So now, and I'll do this last bit, then let's take a break.
Sure.
So now we get to the third point where I started to get really fucking scared the first time I watched it. Mm-hmm. One of the Bedouin girls is zoning out.
Oh my God.
After the song, she starts babbling and staring blankly. Something is wrong, but we don't know what.
Stephen McHattie or Grant Mazzy is sort of wrapping up the segment, and she interrupts him. Like she just has this look, a dead look on her face. But at first you think like, oh, it's just a kid.
It's just a kid.
Just a kid zoning out.
And she's saying like, I don't know how it goes.
I don't know how it ends. I can't remember how it ends. Is it? And she just pop.
It's so unnerving and confusing. Like, even when I watch it again and again, even though I know what's going on, I'm like, yeah, this hits. This hits so well. Mm-hmm. This is not traditional horror. It's not body parts falling off or blood or anything. It's just nonsense words, but it's so unsettling. It's so we know there's something happening outside.
Yes.
And we know it is causing people to be violent. Mm-hmm. But this isn't violence. This is just a child babbling. But it seems to be part of it. And it's just the not knowing and the tension and Grant's concern and the fact that it's a child makes us go.
The fact that it's a child, the child actor, props.
Yes,
like,
she's
good
great.
Work. But like you can tell that she is genuinely upset. And it goes beyond like, I don't know the words to my song or I'm having trouble memorizing. This is like there's a deep terror in the child and they cannot communicate it.
Yes.
And that the inability to express yourself correctly is a deeply held human fear.
It is. And it's the heart of this film.
It is.
We talk a lot about the coincidence in language and the double meanings, but ultimately
that's all spice on the cake.
That's all spice.
Yeah.
But ultimately, and they talk about this in the commentary, it starts with not being understood.
Right. Which
adds to the themes of loneliness and isolation.
Right. Like even that in that first bit when they're talking back and forth between the booth, like he only understands them and she only understands him when she finally comes into the booth with him.
Yes.
And lays it all out. Up until then, they're just yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And like constantly being misunderstood and bouncing off of each other. And they both see the other one as the enemy.
Yeah. Just a shout out for Tony Burgess.
Yeah.
I didn't care for the book Pontypool Changes Everything.
Sure.
But listening to the commentary, he's clearly a very smart man.
Yeah, even when we recorded this episode the first time, you read passages of
There's some well-written passages in there.
And there is some really good shit in that book. I also know that James Joyce was a very intelligent person.
Yes.
I'm not going to read Ulysses.
Someday I will.
Although I will say, if it ever turns out that the conversationalist
they make a Power Rangers version of Ulysses, you would watch that?
Well, of course. But no, if the conversationalists, which we'll not get into yet, but if the conversationalists ever turn out to be real, a real good way of curing yourself of that would be to just try and read Ulysses.
Or Finnegan's Wake would even be a better one.
Or Finnegan's Wake. One thing I will say, just apropos of nothing, I was trying to come up with a good way to segue into this. There is none. It just popped into my head. The scene where in the opening, when she comes out of the snow and pum, and is repeating something under her breath, and he's like, what? I just realized it's the same scene from a different perspective, obviously, and the same horror in my gut that I get from that scene as Twin Peaks The Return in episode 8, got a light,
Oh yeah.
got a light, got a light. Like that it's that same. There's a very similar chord in my brain that is plucked in those two scenes, and I think it is definitely my fear of people.
Yeah, no, it is.
Okay.
But just to end this Farage segment, that's the girl who is
Yes.
who is spacing out.
Is that her name or her character?
That's the character's name.
Okay. I mean,
In Lawrence and the Arabians, she is Farage.
Farage.
We
and
never learned
learn
the
her
actress's
real
name.
Okay.
But what's also so creepy about this is like Grant is unsettled. He's creeped out, but he's not like super scared. And the music is barely noticeable in this film.
Yes.
Like I didn't take a special notice of it. It's not overbearing.
No.
It's not like she's saying pra, and it's like building up behind her. It
does what film scores are most of the time supposed to do, which is just add to the scene, but not in a way that you notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the line is Steve Van Denzen.
Well, first, continuing the theme of miscommunication, after the scene where the little girl was having trouble, he says, "Did you hear what just happened in here, Sydney?" And she says, I know, it was bad," thinking he's talking about the music.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying about, like, how unnerved he was about the problem that just happened in there. And she keeps misinterpreting everything he says as being a complaint about the fact that he had to do the segment.
Yeah. And
it happens,
again,
like, 3 times in a row.
And again, reinforcing the isolation and loneliness.
He's in the booth. When he's in the booth and she's out there, nothing that he says communicates to her.
No. And that's not... Sydney Brier is never painted as, like, a bitch or bad at her job or someone who's, like, shitty to Grant. She's trying to do her job as the producer of a local radio show.
And they're different people with different life experiences and different goals of what they want to get out of this job that they're doing.
I just wanted to point it out because it would be very easy to make Sydney a bitch character.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, one of those stereotypical sort of Chris Pratt in Jurassic World situations where, like, he's kind of a douche, but he's a cool douche, and she's just a bitch. And she's got to be taught a lesson about how to be cool by the cool douche.
No.
Yeah.
Again, Sydney smokes pot. She has a good relationship with Laurel Ann. She's very accommodating to Grant.
Yeah.
Like
she's very accommodating to Laurel Ann, too.
When she comes into the booth, she's always very soothing.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you wanted to follow the story. As soon as we get confirmation, you can do it, and you can do your take no prisoners thing.
You can do your take no prisoners. She's very much like a mom with him, just sort of like, I know you
eat 3 more peas.
Eat 3 more peas, and we can have your pie. You can run around with the towel tied around your neck if you really want. She has
crawl into the plastic bag.
She has this great bit where she's like, "I like your mazziness. I want your mazziness.
I hired you for your mazziness. I just need you to ease into the mazziness.
Ease into the mazziness a little bit," which is a great direction.
So next on the line is an apparent eyewitness, Steve Van Denzen, but it's just shouting on the other end.
Yes.
Another great bit. The intensity is ramping up. Sydney is stressed and confused, but still skeptical. Maybe just because she wants it to not be real. She needs it to not be real because this is Pontypool and crazy things shouldn't happen in a small town like this.
Laurel Ann is also getting phone calls from people who are just repeating things over and over again or mumbling on the line.
And they still can't reach Ken. Grant says that the crowd is speaking in bizarre ways.
Well, he gets a report, and the report begins with this line. It's one of my favorite lines in the entire movie. I forget it almost every time until I watch it again, but whenever it comes in, it hits something in my brain that just feels good. It makes my brain go brr.
Actually, before that...
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll get to that.
Ahead? Okay.
We're jumping a little bit ahead.
Okay, I'll wait.
Because I made the same note. They speak with the cop, Bob Roseland, first, who talks about how early in the morning, a crowd gathered around the Golden Dawn facility. Worth noting that the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was an occult group in the late 19th century. The crowd was trying to get to an old woman's room, and they were repeating the stuff she was saying. It's a retirement facility. She's senile. She's talking about Hitler, and it's the ramblings of a senile, dying woman. And here's where we start to realize that something is wrong with Laurel Ann. We keep getting told, and this is all visual. The actress is doing a great job. Like, she's not like, oh, Sydney, I don't feel well. Or it's just, there's little in her expressions. Something is off.
Yeah.
And now here's where Grant reports on a herd of people.
But I love the stop. Like, he just says, it's a herd. Pause. That's the way it's being described, folks.
Yes.
A herd of people. Something about describing a herd of people and the way that he delivers that, the way it's written, chills me to the bone.
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And again, you're right. This movie is all dialogue. So word choice is so important.
It's incredibly important. It's, again, theater.
Yeah.
Absolutely theater.
It's not a group, not a mob, a herd. Animalistic. We hear, and it just keeps being chilling because this herd of people surrounded a family in their car, a couple and their 2 children, and they were buried under a mountain. He repeats the word, a mountain of people. And Sydney tells them that they were imitating windshield wipers.
Not with their body, with their mouths.
Mouths.
They were imitating the noise of windshield wipers, like a mockingjay.
Yes, and if you're a good movie watcher, your mind is just spinning, imagining this mountain of people that came from this herd, burying this car, going.
God fucking damn it!
It's so. Again, we just keep saying it's amazing, but it is like it is.
There's a disease, or not a disease, but there's a condition that you can have where your mind just can't make pictures.
Okay.
I wonder if this movie is as enjoyable for people.
No picture
like that.
brainy? Is that what it's called?
No picture brainy. Yeah. No, they just they don't have visual things in their head.
That would suck, and I'm sure this movie would not be as enjoyable, but who knows?
Yeah. I wonder if just because they're described things all the time in their life, I'm sure. I wonder if having that description is enough for them not having to see it in their brain.
Well,
because my brain immediately starts creating pictures the minute you tell me anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I am not a visual thinker very much. Like, when I read a book, I'm not painting pictures in my mind.
Okay.
I'm just looking at words and processing them.
Okay.
So, and I still enjoy reading. I don't do it as much anymore.
People
but
with this condition can still read.
Just
like
they can read. They're not fucking blind.
Right, yeah.
If you had a condition...
the way this was described to me is like, picture a Target.
Gotcha.
They can't do that.
No.
Yeah.
A Target store.
Yeah, a Target store. Yeah.
Picture Billy Target, this rocker alter ego I just made up for you.
I thought you were going to say Billy Target, the villain from Daredevil.
Oh, that's what he's called, right?
Billy Target.
Billy Target.
Yeah. It's my favorite. Oh. That's my favorite Collie Farrell character.
Yeah. And of course, the man who hires Billy Target, Large McCrime Boss.
Large McCrime Boss, the bowling champion.
Exactly, yeah. Whether it's Michael Clark Duncan or Vincent D'Onofrio,
yes,
Large McCrime Boss is one of the iconic on-screen villains with his presence.
With his bag of presents he brings to all the children.
Now, I know this is... I know we're calling this a present, but we both know that this is a contract.
If I give you this, you have to be good. Don't embarrass me.
Now. So next...
The Christmas episode of Daredevil was the best one.
Matt Murdock gets shown what life would be like if he could see.
He doesn't learn anything from it. It's just cruel. It's just needlessly cruel.
Well, no. He realizes he's better off not having sight because he has his powers that he can save people.
Oh, okay.
Instead of just being a regular shithead. So next, the BBC calls Grant. because he is at the center of what's happening. The news has spread to the world. Something is going on in Ontario.
And suddenly they're talking to a BBC reporter on their show, but also on their show.
On his show.
Yeah.
Yeah. It becomes, there's a lot of recursion. Grant was complaining about being small time, and now he's on a world stage.
And you can tell that, like, he is completely taken aback by this. Like, at first, when the guy's like, now we're on with Grant Mazzy, you know, all BBC reporters sound the same. Now we're on with Grant Mazzy. Now, Grant, what seems to be, we've had reports that the National Guard has been called in, and what's going on down there? And Grant is just like deer in the headlights, like,
I want to point out that the correspondent's name is Nigel Healing.
That's
More
right.
confused language. Nigel Healing, the name Nigel Healing, and also the phrase with the verb, Nigel is healing someone. Nigel asks about roadblocks that have been set up. Grant denies it. Nigel says it's clear that an insurgency is gathering, and all the while Sydney's like, I don't think he knows what he's talking about, even though this is the fucking BBC. She needs it to not be real.
Well, I think he actually doesn't know what he's talking about, though, because he's talking about terrorist cells and stuff like that.
Well, I don't know a lot about Canadian history, and granted, Quebec has had some terrorist stuff.
Sure.
But this is Ontario. Maybe he's just painting with broad swaths.
But we know that this is not a terrorist attack.
We do,
Yeah.
But we're watching a horror movie. Nigel Healing is in the real world where zombie outbreaks don't happen.
Yeah, but I think that the part of the point of the scene is, some of the things that he says are correct. Like we find out later, the roadblocks, yes, like travel in and out of Pontypool has been.
And we already know that
down.
the military has been called in.
Yes, we already know that the military at least on a local level, is there. But I think a lot of what he says, aside from that, is he's spitballing. He's like he's doing exactly what Grant Mazzy was doing earlier. He's making shit up and like trying to like free associate with the elements that we do know, but nothing that he says, like you're saying, we already knew the military was there.
Yeah.
Nothing that he says is stuff that, except for the roadblock things, that Grant Mazzy didn't already know.
Okay.
And at the end, when Grant basically says, we don't really know what's going on, he even spins out, there you have it. Clearly a lot of questions going on in Pontypool.
Yeah.
And all that. But the best part is when he signs off with that, Grant, shitty little bitch that he is, turns it around and is like, that was our affiliate station, BBC.
Oh, and again, Stephen McHattie has such control of his voice. He's done some voice acting.
Has he?
Yeah, I think he was actually in some Justice League.
That's awesome. Who did he play?
I do not
I'm
recall.
looking this up immediately.
Go and look it up.
Yeah.
He has such control of his voice. He should be bigger in that arena too. At least he should be doing audiobooks.
Well, it's again like his performance in the one episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine that he was in. He's only in two scenes. He's in the scene where he pronounces that it's a fake, and before that he has a single scene where he and that's all right. Where he and Captain Sisko are sitting there just talking about politics and wine and everything, and he's just completely different character from Grant Mazzy, obviously, but he's just like sitting there like a Roman emperor, like being like, this wine is so smooth, and like just like being. He's so fucking good every time he shows up in anything.
He's amazing. I'm going to take a brief break while you look up something.
Go right ahead.
To talk about the character of Grant Mazzy in the book, because Grant is one of the few things to make it from the book to the screen, aside from the elements of what's going to happen, which we're still not totally into, and Grant Mazzy. In the book, Grant Mazzy works at a television station, not a radio station.
Oh.
And he's a little bit more big time. But he's like a sexual predator.
Gross.
And like he preys on the young interns and stuff.
Oh, the shade.
That's right, the Shade.
Well, he was good.
I'm sure he was.
He's a very minor character because Stephen McHattie can't get a fucking break.
No.
But he does have several very memorable moments, including most of his bit is that he is just really in love with Giganta.
Wonderful.
And
I like a tall lady, too.
He finds out that's mainly his
I like
thing.
a lady you could build a treehouse in.
That's mainly his
or
thing.
on. I don't want to build it inside of her.
It's mainly his thing is how big she is. And then he finds out that she used to be an ape and was turned human. And there's a bit where he gets shocked. He looks over at her and she winks at him and he's like, fine with it.
If she's a lady now, she's a lady now. That's all that matters.
Right.
They can't prosecute you for that.
They actually can't prosecute you for that.
No, it's written in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution.
That was like Ben Franklin was insistent.
That's not
if an orangutan turns into a giant lady and you have fornication on her, you cannot be sent to jail.
That was not even an amendment. That was in the original text of the Constitution. And yes, absolutely, Benjamin Franklin put it in there. He would. Total Ben Franklin move.
Ben Franklin went a lot more about ape turned into hot lady fucking in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence. Like, he wanted it to be he's like, the turkey's the national bird, and if an ape turns into an attractive lady, you should be allowed to have sex with them.
You should.
We the people, ape fucker or no. It's a big tent.
It's a big tent.
So now we get into my favorite 1-2 punch of the film, and where I feel like it really peaks. Ken's back on the line.
Of course.
Ken's desperately trying not to cry. And Rick Roberts is just fucking slaughtering this. He is so damn good. Ken has run into a grain silo. He has the great line, "I've seen things today that are going to ruin the rest of my natural life." And again, like,
how evocative is that?
That's a beautiful line, but it feels like something someone would actually say.
It does. And the way that we're saying it with all this reverence because it's a great line and a great movie that we love. Like,
and also, I'm not trying to act it like
right.
I could.
We're gonna say like this is something's gonna ruin the rest of my natural life. It's this movie walks that line between theatricality and relatability.
Yeah.
I can't really say realism, but like relatability so well that like that line is both theatrical and also completely reasonable.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely say that if I had seen the shit that he'd seen.
Yeah.
I would almost say that word for word, but like not intentionally off of a script, just because that's what the words that would come to me.
Ken is barely making sense. He can barely describe what he's seeing. We get fragments. Ken is watching the mob bite somebody, carrying the people to the ground with their mouths. One of them heard Ken. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to quickly say I being the fool that I am, I did not write down exactly what he says there about carrying the people down to the mouths, but they essentially eat this person.
Yeah.
The description, the way it's described in the movie, how they eat this person is the most terrifying and visceral description of eating someone I have ever heard in my life. There's something about it that is. I have seen Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. I love all those movies. I've never been so upset by a zombie kill as the one that I don't get to see in this movie.
Yeah, no, it's horrifying. But one of the people hears Ken. Mary Galt's boy, the teenage son of Mary Galt. And, of course, it's such a small town. You can say Mary Galt. Ken knows who it is. Sydney knows who it is. Half the people listening probably know who it is.
He says her big boy.
Her big boy has come crashing through the wall, injuring himself. Mary Galt's boy is whispering something, and Ken gets closer. And suddenly the broadcast is interrupted by a French emergency message.
Right.
saying for
Right in the when the audience is literally at this edge of their seat, all the characters are at the edge of their seat. It blares through, whack, and like just R.I.P. headphone users, and everyone just like, wah.
This is an excellent. It's like playing a fish. Just reel them in, let out the slack.
One of the best jump scares in cinema.
And this is not a jump scare movie.
No,
absolutely.
It's jump scares, right? Well, this and when the hand goes on the window in the opening, those are the two jump scares. You get two,
but it's not music jump scares.
No,
it's diegetic sound jump scares. Mm-hmm. The message says that for your safety, please avoid close contact with family members. Restrain from the following: all terms of endearment, rhetorical discourse, and for greater safety, please avoid the English language.
It says all of this in French.
Oh, and also, do not translate this message.
Yes, it says all of this in French, and Laurel Ann, thank you. Laurel Ann works hard to translate. She can't figure it out at first. She thinks she's getting it wrong. She's like, this is all gibberish.
Yeah.
Because obviously, this is a weird thing that's being said to them. But she translates it. She puts it out. She sends it into Grant, and Grant reads it and as he's reading, do not translate this message. He gets slower on that line. He's like, oh shit, what did we do?
It's brilliant.
Which, to be fair, they should have put that at the beginning.
Yes, they should.
Why they put that at the end?
Because it's a government thing.
Right, of course.
They're not thinking.
Of course.
Sydney also gets a message that from the police that Pontypool is under quarantine.
Mm-hmm. So if there were no roadblocks before, there definitely are now.
And now Ken is back, and this is the moment that hits me the hardest.
This moment is fucked up.
This is where I was just chilled to the core. The movie peaks at this point for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's interviewing Mary Golt's big teenage boy, body broken to pieces, almost inaudible, in a baby's voice. He's saying, "Help me, Mama." Slowly getting louder and more distorted. So high-pitched.
The camera, by the way, while we're hearing this, is on Steve McHattie's face. If it were any closer to Steve McHattie's head, he'd have to be making out with it, or it'd have to be inside his ear canal.
Yes.
It is, like, in there.
And he is engrossed. He is... It's not like he's doing a lot of twitchy movements, but...
No.
Face acting is such a subtle art.
Yeah, especially when the camera's that close to you.
Yeah. And he's just fucking killing it. And I have to wonder how they did this, if they had a recording playing on set, or if he was just being given direction by Bruce McDonald, or how this worked. Whatever he's doing, it's a fucking masterclass.
Part of why it's so disturbing, it is disturbing on its own. Just you describing that, I'm upset. But it is also him. Like, his performance makes it so much more upsetting.
Yes.
Because he's so upset.
Yeah.
And you, like, at this point, Grant Mazzie has been he's so his own character. He's not like a cipher like Luke Skywalker or Harry Potter.
He's not an everyman.
He's not an everyman. He's his own character. But you have gotten into the headspace of him as an audience member, since he is also an audience member to this movie. At that point, that you feel his upsetness with him, and it heightens your own tension and fear.
It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Mulholland Drive.
Sure.
During the Winky's Diner scene, my favorite scene in the film.
Sure.
Where Patrick Fischler says to his companion, "I'm scared, and then I see how scared you are, and I get more scared."
There you go.
It's the same philosophy.
It's the whole thing.
The line that scares me the most while Ken is giving this brilliant fucking monologue is, "It sounds like there's a child screaming inside his breath." And I believe they lose Ken again at this point.
I believe that they
And Grant is starting to lose it. Extreme close-up. He's confused.
He starts to hear something, and I've never been able to make out what he hears in this moment.
I believe they talk about this in the commentary. I believe this is the point where he was supposed to be looking down under his desk.
Yes,
and there
he
would be a
does.
tiny 8-inch man in a fishing hut talking about the earlier incident. Like,
Yeah.
there are people with guns, and that is what he's reacting to.
An 8-inch man?
Like a hallucination, like a...
I thought that he was hallucinating because the only other explanation would be that he would be becoming a conversationalist, which would not match up with what we find out about the
Yes.
conversationalist later.
Which is, we'll mention that, they are not zombies in this film. They are conversationalists.
Yes.
Which is a great name.
Now, I will say, something I forgot about this movie is that it came out in 2008, as you
Yes.
said. 2008, for those who might not remember or maybe weren't around at the time or just weren't paying attention, was a huge time for zombie movies.
Yes, this was in the wake of the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Mm-hmm.
We had Shaun of the Dead not long before that.
We were choking on zombie movies.
This
On
is
the
around
DVD,
the time the Max Brooks Zombie Survival Guide came out.
right? On the DVD for this movie, there is a trailer for a way worse zombie movie called Dead Snow,
Right.
which also takes place in a winter setting, but utilizes it way less and way less effectively. This movie is so good, and it's so its own thing. Even if I didn't know that the filmmakers didn't consider it a zombie movie and considered the monsters to be conversationalists instead of zombies, I don't normally think of it as a zombie movie anyway.
No, I don't.
It's so its own thing. But when it came out, it was
They had to market it somehow.
right. And when my roommate showed the movie to me, the genre I mentioned, he was a big fan of the zombie craze.
Gotcha.
And he would like do kind of what we do, except specifically with zombie movies, sort through all the crap to try and find the nuggets.
Yeah.
And he would find, oh man, I found
The nuggets of crap.
the nuggets of crap. And he's like, I found some real great meat in the middle of this gristle.
Yeah.
Let me show you this before I go away. And
Go away to heaven.
go away to heaven. Yeah, he died that night. But I don't. Fully forgot that that's how I was introduced to this movie, because it's so. There is no like, oh, Dawn of the Dead, Pontypool, Day of the Dead. It's just like, there are zombie movies, there are Frankenstein movies, Dracula movies,
And then there's Pontypool.
and then there's just fucking Pontypool. Pontypool is its own fucking thing. It is no other genre of anything.
Again, like I said before, it's pure horror. It
Yes.
defies genre because it's distilled so purely.
And yet, at the same time, when you have a giant crowd of people, semi-cannibalistic, mindless, putting their open palms against something, bursting walls open, it's hard not to think about zombies.
It's a zombie movie.
Yeah.
It is a zombie movie.
Right. We can play around with our pretension all we want. It's still a zombie movie.
I just think the conversationalist is a neat name for the monster.
It is neat, and it is also, unlike any zombie movie you will
A
ever
unique
see.
virus should have a unique name.
Sure.
Nigel Healing is still on the BBC. He's talking about the Honey the Cat poster, which people are apparently carrying around.
I missed that bit.
Yeah. Sydney tries to get through to Grant, telling him about the poster. Grant has she says, Nigel Healing said apparently, and Grant interrupts her and says, Nigel Healing said apparently, can you fucking hear yourself?
Well, first, he brings his head out from underneath the desk with,
Yes.
what? And I've never seen a human being open their eyes wider
He does great eye work.
than Stephen McHattie in this moment.
It's not like he has big eyes. They're just so expressive.
He looks like he's about to go rabid in
Yeah.
that moment. And then he gets out of
Call him Eminem because he's losing himself.
he gets out of the booth and they start having this altercation.
Yes. But I just love... Language is becoming more warped as Grant tries to understand it more. And that's the basis of the virus is there's a misunderstanding and you struggle. We've all been in this situation where it's like, oh, I fucked up in what I said, so I'm going to try to use more words to fix it, and that's just making things worse.
Right. And again, as I said, the moment that he gets out of the booth, one of the most significant moments when he gets out of the booth is this scene, and it's very telling why he gets out of the booth. He's fully started to understand that there is something like truly Lovecraftianly horrible happening.
Yes.
And he is like, I gotta get out. And so he gets out of the booth. He's still in the box. He's still in the basement.
He's still in the studio.
So he's got to get out of there. And then he's got to get out of the building. And he's got to get out of the snow. And he's just like, he's having a fucking panic attack. I need to get out. And he's like, the more that they try and drag him back in, he's like, you're fucking with me. You're fucking with me.
You're all fucking with me.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with my head. I want to point out a few things in between all that.
Yeah.
One, Laurel Ann, God bless her heart, engineered to the last,
Yes.
is still concerned about dead air.
Yes, she turns around and is like, we have crickets.
Yeah.
While Grant is trying to get out of the building.
Sydney has her play the piece about Honey the Cat, which probably makes things a lot worse.
Probably.
Because there's also broadcasting the broadcast outside the studio on a loudspeaker.
Yes.
So as you said, Grant tries to leave. Grant is concerned that he was the cause, that somehow, because of the Honey the Cat stuff, that he is somehow responsible. And he says, I need to know that there's more happening to everyone than what's happening to just me. Again, this isolation, this loneliness. And you're right. I didn't even think about that. He goes out of the box and he's still in a fucking basement. One of the big things, as I talked about, the start is a very small movie and they worked outward. A lot of the conversations that Tony Burgess and Bruce McDonald had is like, how much do we show? How much can we... So we see shots of the loudspeaker outside and they're like, can we show that or is that going too far outside our box?
Right, yeah.
It's
a legitimate question when you're making a movie like this.
So we don't see a lot of outside.
Which is good.
Grant is snapping. He tries to leave. Sydney says, don't walk out on me, Grant, please. I need you again. We're folding in on the loneliness and isolation of these people. We learned that Sydney's divorced. Her children are not with her.
They're not even in
the city.
Ottawa. They're
Ontario.
They're in another place. And going back to I need to make sure this isn't just happening to me. When I feel like we've had very real experiences we all have with the pandemic with you're just sort of trapped inside with yourself and you almost feel like this whole pandemic is just happening to you because you're just there without being able to interact with anybody else. And I've always liked this movie, never fully related to Grant in this scene more than this time watching it. In previous times watching it, I always kind of felt like this was a little bit staged.
Oh, okay. I always loved it.
I always felt like this scene was a bit stagey. Like he's like, they just need him to get up to the top of the stairs so they can do a thing. But no, I now fully understanding, having better understanding of isolation.
Yeah.
That I now have, having lived it. I understood a lot more what he was dealing with here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They all take a look outside. Laurel Ann pushes everyone back inside. Grant says he doesn't see anything.
Yes.
But Laurel Ann, veteran that she is, pushes them all back inside because she spots the enemy.
She even starts going militaristic. She refers to them as the enemy, and she starts referring to Grant and Sydney as Sir.
She's called Sydney. Well, she's about to call Sydney Sir, but yeah.
Which she has not been doing that the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie she just called them by their names. When suddenly action is going on, she snaps into a different mode,
and I love it so much.
Sure.
I love this character.
It's
very
she's so realistic.
Multifaceted. She, up until now, she's even though we know she's a veteran, she sort of gives off a stoner vibe. She's dressed a bit punky.
She just seems like the girl next door.
Sure.
And she even they talk about her being a homecoming hero.
She was at the fall parade or whatever. She was the homecoming hero.
And Grant even says when he introduces the fact that she is a veteran, he mentions it it's news to me. This is a big.
All of you probably know this.
Yeah, and they do all know this as we find out. But to him, this is a big surprise, and to the audience, is a big surprise too because she just doesn't come across that way.
Yeah,
she's not played as overtly butch or anything like most dumb movies tend to write.
No,
veterans are. She's just a person who happens to have been in the military.
Conversationalists outside are repeating Sydney's words, which freaks her out. Sydney begins to fall apart, and now it's Grant's turn to help her.
It's let's get back to the booth. Let's get back to the booth.
And the way they reset is the incredibly chilling. They decide, here's what we need. Obituaries.
We gotta go do the obits segment.
And I don't know how they get this news, but this is, again, this is second to Ken Loney's
less realistic moments in the movie, but like
it doesn't matter because shit's breaking down. The creators really tried to cultivate a sense of like, is this happening? Is it not happening?
Sure.
Which is not an aspect of the film that I'm interested in. I take it at face value.
I don't think it's needed in this film.
It's not. It's
I don't
really
think it's
not
necessary. I think that there's a version of this movie. Okay, so I mentioned that like the opening of this movie is the opening of a Night Gallery episode. I was being literal. There is a Night Gallery episode that's literally about a big city DJ who's been lost his job because of shenanigans, and he's brought to like a little podunk station in the middle of nowhere by his agents. Like, this is the only job I could get you. And he goes there, and it's like there is a sort of element of like he's hearing things and is like, is this real? Is this not real? Now, because Night Gallery is a very dumb show, good show, dumb show.
Every episode, it's so dumb, and it made Rod Serling so dumb. And like in the middle of episodes, they'll cut to him like trying to eat the paintings. And like there's a PA with a broom being like, "No, Rod, get off!"
Just poking him with a
not food.
He's like, "Rah!"
Then he drinks a Schlitz beer and smokes a cigarette.
At the end of the episode, it just turns out this radio station's run by the devil, and that's the whole thing.
I feel like he has better things to do.
This movie is like if you have the setup and the arc of a Night Gallery episode, but with the plot concept of a Twilight Zone episode. And it has the brilliance of a Twilight Zone plot, but with the horror element of Night Gallery. But what the hell was my point? Oh, yeah, but like in that Night Gallery episode, the idea of like what's real, what isn't, like what's going on, that works for that.
Sure.
The concept of what's going on outside is so interesting. You don't need that shit.
It's not more interesting if you're questioning whether it's real or not. It's just, you don't need that wrinkle.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember who said this. Some sci-fi writer said, focus on one thing.
Yeah.
Focus on making the audience believe one ridiculous thing at a time. And don't like another thing that we compared to Twilight Zone, Vivarium.
Yes.
So many fucking things.
A lot of things.
Just do one. Just do one thing. And that's what this movie does, and it does amazing.
And we don't need to talk about Vivarium.
No, we talked enough about Vivarium.
The obituaries, it's another Grant monologue accompanied by black and white photos of normal-ass looking people.
Yeah.
He is not just talking about all the obituaries are recent, extremely recent, caused by this event. And it's not just people who were killed. He also lists the people that they killed.
Yes. And it's haunting. And there is another great quote, which I do not remember who said it. He said that it's almost impossible to do an anti-war movie.
Yes, because all war films glorify war in some way.
In some way, because it's inherently exciting.
Yeah.
This movie, which I do believe is talking about war.
You think so?
I do actually think it is talking about war. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But one of the things about zombies that makes them difficult as a horror concept is that zombies are cool.
Yes.
Like there's if you're a horror fan and you like gross things, like there's an element that's always going to be like, look at the cool shit Tom Savini can do.
Yeah.
There's always like, you watch Day of the Dead and the zombies walking around with no jaw and the tongue just sort of like going around. It's like, they had to rig a mechanical tongue. That's so neat.
It's not, oh my God, the horrors of flesh.
Right. It's like,
that's
oh my
a
God,
cool effect.
That's so neat. And by doing it this way, so that you don't see any of the zombies, at least up until now, and all you see are these not stills, but like images of people and hearing about their relationships between each other.
Yes.
And all the people that they loved that they killed. you watch Dawn of the Dead, you are sad when you see the characters that you've grown to like over the course of the film turn into zombies.
Yeah.
But there's all these like horde of other zombies that you don't give a shit about, and it's fun to watch them get decapitated.
But this makes them people.
This makes the entire horde of zombies people.
Because Grant is not descriptive. He just says
it's an obit segment.
It'd be like Sal Lombardo went on to end the lives of so and so age whatever.
Yeah. But you see their faces, and you
see their faces
in the context that they lived in, on the farm that they
worked
at.
You don't see like their corpses. You just see them as regular people.
In the store that they worked at, like it's them in their context with their loved ones.
And it's young and old people. Like it's children. Like they mentioned people as young as 12 died.
It manages to communicate the horror of a zombie apocalypse in a way that no other movie ever has.
Yeah, the closest thing I can think of is maybe World War Z, that puts it into a more personal and human
in the book, not the Brad Pitt movie. Yeah.
I want to point out that during the obits, it ends with the mention of some Drummonds, which is our Laurel Ann's last name. It's never said like they're related to her, but with as small a town as it is,
they probably are.
And I like to think headcanon that increased Laurel Ann's dissociation from reality, causing what we're about to see. Laurel Ann is infected.
Yeah,
she's not making sense. She's repeating words.
Well, she's wrapping up.
Sydney.
Sydney has a cut. She's wrapping her up with a bandage, and she makes a crack about like.
Sydney says, "Did anything this crazy ever happen in Afghanistan?"
And Sydney said...
Laurel Ann
says something about bringing the war back in her head.
Which makes sense to me, but Sydney does not understand it. Mm-hmm. And this is... We've seen Laurel Ann acting kind of squirrely up until now. Mm-hmm. But here's where the misunderstanding really causes the infection to take place.
Yes, and it takes hold with the word missing. Mm-hmm. She starts saying that Mazzy is missing. When Sydney is like, he's in the booth, he's not missing. She say missing as in not here. Because her brain is stuck on the word missing. Mm-hmm. So maybe by clarifying what missing means, she can clarify what she means. But all it does is highlight to her how much that didn't make sense.
Yes.
And her continuing to interrogate the meaning of the word missing and search for that meaning is what only continues to make it take hold. And I never fully grasped the mechanics and how well laid out the mechanics of this process are laid out in the scene until this viewing.
Yeah, this is a great scene. And now we get to what might be my favorite bit of sound editing in a film ever. There's a tea kettle on heat in the background. Laurel Ann walks away. The tea kettle begins to whistle, and Sydney removes it from the heat, but the sound persists, but it's sort of different. And Sydney looks over, and Laurel Ann is staring blankly into space, imitating the sound of the tea kettle. It's fucking beautiful.
It's so fucking terrifying, and immediately my brain just went to, Doctor, the tape stopped 5 minutes ago. Are you my mummy? I'm here now.
Yeah.
One of Brad's favorite episode.
Yeah, absolutely. That is probably my favorite episode of Doctor Who. I love Chris Eccleston.
Yeah.
We have grilled cheese sandwiches most days.
You and Chris Eccleston?
Yeah, he flies over from the UK.
Are you excited that he's doing Big Finish now?
What the fuck is Big Finish?
Oh, Big Finish is the company,
the audio
the
books.
audio dramas. Yeah, he's finally doing them.
I don't care for Doctor Who. I'm just a big Chris fan. I just I send his kids money for their birthdays.
Right. Yeah.
A couple $1,000.
You know, grilled cheese, buddy. That's a special level.
He spends a lot of money taking the Concorde, which doesn't even exist anymore, over to my house every day.
Just for him.
He bought it.
It exists for him.
Like, I need to get to my buddy as fast as I could in 1992 to have a grilled cheese sandwich, or as they say in England, a sandwo.
A sandwo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I'm a bit of a teaboo.
What?
It's like a weeaboo, but with British culture.
Oh.
A teaboo.
A teaboo.
Have you never heard that phrase?
I've heard Anglophile.
Okay. Well, Gen Z has flipped the script.
Teaboo. That's hilarious.
So now, Dr. John Mendez crawls in through the window.
Yes. Bringing the exposition train with him.
So here's a really awesome thing about the actress Georgina Riley, who plays Laurel Ann. Mm-hmm. Laurel Ann showing signs of the disease was one of the audition pieces for the character. Georgina Riley, great actress that she is, asked what the words meant to the character. And there are 3 levels to what she's doing. There's the thing she meant to say, the thing she said, and how she reacts to what she said as opposed to what she is meant to say.
Yes.
So she asked, like, for a translation of the dialogue into actual Laurel Ann thoughts.
That's brilliant. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Absolutely.
Oh my
So
God.
Tony Burgess wrote a second set of dialogue that was what she was saying in her head.
That's, oh my God.
Yeah.
I love that so
It's
fucking much.
fucking brilliant.
Oh
That's the
my
way
God.
if they had given the part to anybody else other than her.
No, that's a real actor right there.
That is
putting that fucking work in.
Which makes it so frustrating that she's not bigger and more things, because
Yeah.
she's doing the fucking work.
Absolutely.
She's not Brad Pitt just eating some chips.
Yeah, no, Brad Pitt refusing to shower, eating chips, and wandering around in a CGI wasteland.
I mean, honestly, that's my heaven.
Yeah, but it's not like you're doing
No,
a
I don't.
job.
I don't. Yeah. No,
You could do that in your off hours.
I do that in my off hours. I have a green screen,
right,
and I have After Effects.
Yeah, a whole
and
bunch of potato chips and
Yep,
and just,
I get
refusing
a
to
bag
shower.
of Middlesworth. I don't shower for 8 days a week because I'm a big Beatles fan.
Right.
But
That's what that song is about, not
Yeah.
showering for 8 days a week.
Yep. Ringo is like, I wish there was one more day I didn't get to shower. So Dr. John Mendez and Sidney go into the sound booth. Grant refers to him as the building that exploded, which a detail I love, more twisting of the language. Laurel Ann stands outside the booth and tries to get in, scared and confused.
Again, tying back to them skirting the line between making sure that there's no way you can enjoy this in the way that some people enjoy zombie movies.
Yeah.
You have to be scared of it. You can't enjoy it. The only zombie that we've been able to see so far is a character that we have been programmed to like so much. She's such a sweet character. She's so nice, and she's the zombie.
And this is so much the reverse of what a lot of low-budget horror does, where they try to make you hate all the characters, so that when they become kill fodder, you're like, yay! But
right, because you're
generally that
supposed
just
to...
makes for an annoying cast of characters.
Right, and even if it does work out for some reason, it's the idea in that is you're just supposed to enjoy the violence. In this movie, violence is never good.
Yeah.
And it's never something to be enjoyed. It is only something to be feared and be upset by.
Yes.
And it's one of the most effective movies of pulling that hat trick I've ever seen.
And because the cast is so small, the stakes are so high.
Right.
And eventually Laurel Ann comes back. She begins banging her head on the glass. Dr. John Mendez talks about how she needs a victim, and she's rooting for voices. Ken calls back. He's still in the grain silo. He can hear the crowds from time to time. They're talking about U-boats. More of the senile old lady's ramblings.
Ramblings about World War II.
His words become jumbled. Eventually he just keeps repeating the word simple.
Sample. I think he starts with simple, it moves into sample.
Yeah, but it's one or the other. But, and here Lisa Hool's give her the Oscar moment.
Well,
she's choked up.
Well, first he starts repeating it, and the doctor says he's gone. He's just a broken radio now.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Lisa Soul's Oscar moment.
Choked up, she says, I think it's time to say goodbye to our man in the sunshine chopper.
Oh, God.
And again, we love Ken Loney because we just know him as like
just a simple guy.
The simple
in his
dude
Dodge
who's in
Dart.
his Dodge Dart playing helicopter sounds because people get a charge out of it.
Yeah. He's just making his way.
And Sydney's about to cry, and Grant's trying to comfort her.
Sydney is crying.
Sydney is crying, and Grant's trying to comfort her. And here we get one of the most brilliant reversals in film history.
One of the best bits ever. And he says, "You must have been really close, huh?"
And Sydney admits that Ken was a pedophile. Not really a pedophile, but just we didn't let our kids around him. And suddenly the character is so different. But at the same time, only just the same. Because it's like, we've been through...
She follows it up with, like, you just didn't let your kids around him, but you know someone for 17 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's such a unique death where it's not like, oh great, they're finally dead, or I'm so sad they're dead. It's like, oh shit, that just happened.
You're sad, and then you're like,
suddenly
this is way more complicated.
Yeah, you realize, oh, I know nothing about this character. I've never even fucking seen him. It's brilliant, and it's so unnecessary, but it works so fucking well. Like,
and it also it's very realistic. Like, that's just the kind of there are a lot of small towns that just have a town pedophile that everyone just kind of understands you don't let your kids around.
Who's the town pedophile in Maine, wherever the fuck you come from in Maine?
Saco.
Saco?
Saco.
Oh man, tell me about Saco.
Saco. Well, we live down the street from a pet cemetery. Not even a joke. There's a lot of pot smoking going on, and there's a cursed Saco River that every year a certain number of white babies have to be sacrificed to.
Specifically white babies.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, it's a Native American curse.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they cursed us.
And Saco comes out of the river and molests children?
I don't know who the town pedophile was in Saco. Okay. Saco is also like...
Oh, that's the name of the town you're from. That wasn't the name of the pedophile.
No, Saco
I thought you were
town.
I thought you were saying that I thought it was a bit.
No,
but you were just
talking
like
about my
naming your
actual
imaginary
town.
pedophile, Saco.
Talking about my actual town.
Okay.
Saco.
Yeah, that's great. What a fucking stupid name.
SACO.
I don't know that makes it better. It should be Sacco.
Well, it's Saco.
Well,
yeah.
I'll write the mayor. We'll see what we can do.
You do that.
Laurel Ann is staring into the booth. Dr. John Mendez, who has apparently studied these conversationalists quite a bit, he's our expert.
Like I said, he comes in on the exposition train. He's the guy. He's the guy who comes in to Dr. Van Helsing after Lucy's death comes in to explain to the family like what vampires are. He comes in to explain what the conversationalists are.
And for a long time when I watched this movie, because I've watched it a few times,
right,
I have taken the entrance of Dr. John Mendez as the point where the movie starts to go downhill. I believe that the last third of this film is the weakest part of the film because it becomes much more conventional. But this time I kept waiting for the drop. And it didn't bother me as much this time.
Yeah, I think that there's more... Again, the third act of this movie, I keep building to it. I believe that this movie is about war.
Okay.
I believe that this movie is about specifically the Iraq War, the War on Terror, the war in Afghanistan, all that post 9/11 shit. I think that there's more to this third act pointing towards that. But the main bit of Dr. Mendez is there is, yes, to sort of bring, sort of like...
explain everything.
Whenever David Frost does a pass at a Twin Peaks script that David Lynch has Mark Frost does a pass at a Twin Peaks script that David Lynch has already written, it's to take all of this crazy shit that we've seen so far and bring it home.
Make sense of it.
Make sense of it.
I need to go to the bathroom very badly.
Okay.
So Laurel Ann is staring into the booth, and Mendez has been talking about how they need to find a victim, they need to find a voice to pass the virus on into.
Right.
Laurel Ann obviously cannot get to them in the booth. So apparently what happens to the conversationalists when they can't find somebody is they vomit a torrent of blood. Which is what happens to Laurel Ann.
And just fucking die. So essentially, the way that it's described, there is a virus living in language.
Yes.
and it passes through words, specifically English words, into different people. And then its goal is to keep the body alive, but by being in the human body, it's destroying it.
Yeah.
So it's whatever this thing is, this virus, it's trying to keep itself alive. It can only exist in hosts through language. So it just keeps jumping from body to body to body, trying to stay alive, while it's very rapidly burning through bodies.
This is such a genius conceit. Like, this is fucking brilliant.
This is like the best kind of Doctor Who plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of, it's so brilliant that Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain used a similar plot device where there's a parasite that only infects people that use English.
Okay.
And it's sort of, spoiler alerts for Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. It was bioengineered as a retaliation against the imperialistic nature of English-speaking people.
Okay.
So it's like, here's our revenge. If you speak this language, you're going to die from this parasite.
Based on what I know about Phantom Pain, I'm betting it was much less intelligent in that story than it was in this.
Metal Gear Solid is a weird thing where it's... The hyper-complexity of it sort of masquerades as intelligence.
I know that my friend Steven, fan of the show, hi Steven, is a huge Metal Gear Solid fan.
Yeah.
And I know that he was very disappointed by Phantom Pain.
Really?
Yeah.
I had fun with it. I thought it was okay.
Sure.
You can make a horse shit on command.
Well, best game ever, 5 out of 5.
My nephew, when he was like 8 and I showed him that, loved that. Phantom Pain has its problems. I found the gameplay at least fun enough.
Okay.
You can also tranquilize animals and put them in an animal sanctuary.
Right. And then make them shit on command.
Well, that's just the horse.
Oh, just
you
the
can
horse?
only do that with the horse. The horse is not in the sanctuary.
See. If you said that you could make any animal shit on command.
I mean, that's a dream game.
Yeah, that's a dream game right there. That's
Someone get Elon Musk on that.
Dude,
why doesn't Elon Musk make video games?
Why doesn't Elon Musk make anything useful to anyone ever?
I mean, yeah. So why doesn't he make the animal shitting game?
Sure, yeah. That would be a better use of his time.
That's the ultimate God sim.
That's the ultimate argument against simulation theory, is that we can't make animals shit on command.
Well,
and we obviously would if this were a simulation.
Obviously, if someone were in control of this simulation, we'd just be shitting all the time. As Dr. John Mendez explains the situation, Grant questions whether they should be talking at all. And Dr. John Mendez has the great line about how talk radio is high risk. Grant says they need to get the news out.
Yes.
Grant's true blue. At the end of the day, it's not clearly at this point. It's not about ratings or anything, or pissing people off. It's like, we need to tell people.
Yeah, we need people to know.
The conversationalists are banging on the doors outside,
but at the same time, by trying to get the word out, and they might literally get a word out that might have the being in it, and by doing that,
I fucked up.
What?
I'll cut that out. Don't worry. Laurel Ann doesn't die yet.
Okay. But like by trying to get the word out, they might get the word out. And by spreading the message, the news of what's going on, no matter how altruistic that desire might be, that might also be the key to the end of the world.
Yes. Sydney gets a call from one of her kids, who she keeps calling like honey and sweetheart and stuff like that.
Which are all terms of endearment. They keep telling her, stop that, don't do that, don't do that.
Meanwhile, Laurel Ann is violently throwing herself at the glass of the booth. Also, Sydney uses a lot of terms of endearment in general. She kept calling Laurel Ann honey and stuff like that.
Yes.
The conversationalists have gotten in, and here's where the movie did start to dip for me a little bit.
Well, first Laurel Ann dies.
Oh shit, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Grant regrets that he never gave Laurel Ann her Valentine.
Yeah.
Which he got the ladies' Valentines earlier. And here's where Laurel Ann, not being able to find a victim, vomits a torrent of blood onto the glass and keels over.
So this isn't like other zombie apocalypse, like the George Romero zombie apocalypse, where they just kind of like go on and just keep living. Like there's no real consequences to them not finding victims. If you don't find a victim, the God bug, as Mendez calls it, which I love that term, God bug, as Mendez refers to it, it will literally burn you up and destroy you from the inside out. You need to pass it on or you're fucked.
The conversationalists have gotten in. As I said, here's where the movie begins to really dip for me. Again, not so much, but about a half an hour left, and the movie has become much more like a regular zombie movie.
They start playing a couple of more familiar notes here. It doesn't really bother me, but I can definitely see how unique the movie has been up until now. But to be fair, again, sorry, just dropped my phone on my cat. Sorry, buddy. To be fair, again, comparing this to War of the Worlds, the second half of War of the Worlds, the broadcast version, also dips. Yeah. Because after the first half where they do all the fun broadcast shit, they have to do like a more traditional story. And
there has to be a climax.
There has to be an ending. Yeah.
And there has to be some explanations, which kills things almost 100% of the time.
Exactly. Oh no, the aliens got defeated by the common cold.
Yeah. To lure the conversationalists away, they broadcast a message on the loudspeaker outside.
First, they communicate that they're going to do this between each other by using magic marker on paper.
Yes.
And the sound of magic marker on paper is like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Yeah.
I hate it so
I can understand
much.
that.
So that's a part where the movie dips for me.
Okay.
Just listening to...
My thing like that is anything that sort of mimics the first notes of an alarm clock. Like that. Like, sometimes some things will just hit that note perfectly. Won't even sound like an alarm clock, but it's like that note is like...
There's an episode of the Christopher Eccleston Doctor Who where they're on a space station, and they clearly, like, whoever was doing the sound effects was just like looking for whatever beeps and whistles they could just throw in there to make it sound like a space station in the background. And one of the sounds that they chose was just an alarm clock. And so they just have that playing over and over again in the far back.
Gotcha.
Only I can hear it, I feel like, when I watch it, but like I get so stressed out watching that episode.
But the message they choose is Sydney Briar is alive because she's the one with children.
Right.
She's the one who has the most reason to survive.
And also her conversation with her kid got cut off.
Yes.
So she's... Yeah, so Sydney Briar is alive, and Grant Mazzy delivers it into the microphone as only Steve McHattie can.
As if it's the most important message in the world.
Yes.
Which...
Smooth as fucking butter with his voice.
And let's now... We'll get into it more a little bit later. This is not a movie about sexual tension, obviously, but throughout you can tell that there's chemistry between Sydney and Grant, as much as they're opposites and much they drive each other crazy. You can feel that chemistry. So like,
yeah, you can, especially in like the moments when they drop their professional exteriors and like really communicate as people. Like you can tell that there is care. Yeah, there is care for each other. Like she cares that he feels fulfilled in this job. He's not a performing monkey for her. She wants him to be happy. Yeah. He wants her to be happy. Because again, they just keep missing the communication.
As much as Grant Mazzy can be a full of himself asshole, he is a good person at his core.
Right.
Dr. John Mendez begins to babble in a foreign language. I couldn't tell what it was. It sounded a little Germanic.
I thought it was actually Spanish.
I'm not sure.
I mean, maybe I'm just assuming that because his name is Mendez. I'm not sure. But the reason why he starts to babble in a foreign language is because
he realizes it's only English.
He's been infected already.
Okay.
He starts saying breathe, 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 and like so just like Laurel Ann did, putting breathe in the sentences where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
And so yesterday I watched this movie, took my notes on it, sent Brad a text where I started saying breathe, 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 breathe as a reference to the scene, and Brad thought that I thought he was having a panic attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
which was very funny to me.
But that's great. I was mostly just sort of confused and eventually worried about you.
Yeah, because I just kept doubling down on the bit
Because I had not finished my rewatch because of attention issues.
Sure.
So I did
fine.
not get the reference.
Yeah, you were also in the middle of your day.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there watching a movie.
Well, granted, the middle of my day is about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
We talked after I was done with work. Not that it's important.
Sure.
But DJ M, as I refer to him in my notes, Dr. Jean Mendez, realized that it's only the English language that's infected, which makes sense because the English language is an abortion of a language.
Yes. It's, yeah.
And Sydney and Grant take the time to dip out of the booth. As they try to make their way to the kitchen, they encounter the little girl, Faraj, from Lawrence and the Arabians, who was infected.
Again, the only two zombies we really get to see...
Laurel Ann
and an adorable
Faraj.
little girl. So, two people that it's impossible to feel good about being zombies.
And I think they take Faraj out of her brown face, so that makes...
Maybe.
So you're not like they're stomping a racist child. How
I'm...
many racist children have you met? What's the most racist child you've met?
Most racist child, I went back in time and met baby Hitler once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Why didn't you kill him?
I tried, honestly, kick my ass.
Oh, like baby Thanos in Cosmic Ghost Rider.
That's why I don't talk about it, because it's embarrassing.
Yeah, you got beat up by a baby.
Getting beat up by a baby, but also a baby with a mustache is like, man, like that sucks.
I got beat up by baby Jane from the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. As an old lady, not as like a young Shirley Temple knockoff.
Yeah. But like Betty Davis, kicked your ass.
Those Betty Davis eyes really put me under the ground.
Right? Yeah, that's just like it's like a Pokemon move. She like startles you with those, and then she just like goes for the jugular.
Betty Davis used glare.
Exactly.
She attacks Sydney, and Grant goes to the rescue. And kudos to this whatever stunt person got into the Faraj clothes. They take a smack to the wall and bounce right off. Now we have a hard cut.
Yes.
And next we see Grant and Sydney kicking the shit out of this girl.
Well, it's even more than that. So the way it's set up, Grant is in front of a wall. He starts running towards the little girl to, kill her.
Yeah.
He's running towards the camera. Hard cut in the middle of his action. We're just looking at that wall now.
Yes, and it's a poster of Grant Mazzy. It's like a banner ad of Grant Mazzy, Mazzy in the morning.
And you hear the violence happening off camera. And then it cuts back to them just as they're like doing the final like 2 or 3 kicks to kill the kid, and the kid is out of frame. When we first talked about this, I remember complaining about this.
Really?
I remember thinking that this was like a budgetary thing, like they were trying to save money, like they couldn't afford to film a fight scene or something like that.
I never felt that.
I remember saying that when we recorded it last time. I think this time, to me, it felt more like the scene in Taxi Driver where Travis Bickle's having a very embarrassing phone conversation and the camera pans away from him as if, like, this is too shameful to watch.
This is violence that we don't need to see.
This is the character's darkest moment when they're literally killing a child, like a victim.
And this is the one point where, like, sort of, like, is it real, is it not, really goes into effect because of the hard cut. We're supposed to assume some sort of mental shit. Did you shit yourself, or is it the cat?
No, that's the cat.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to go take care of that? I've been meaning to do that.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't like
I'm fine, yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine. It's just, one of the cats didn't bury their shit well enough.
Okay. We can finish out the episode. But yeah, I love this bit. And here's, again, like, I kept waiting for it's like, okay, well, where's the part I don't like? Because the Laurel Ann stuff is good. The stuff with the kid is very good and upsetting, especially for Sydney, who breaks down and sobs. And then they have this great conversation about, because I see DJ M in the booth just like rambling to himself, and they're like,
yes.
Then now they're speaking French.
I think he's trying to drown out, because, like, he's infected. It's in there.
Yeah.
Like, but, so, in order to prevent himself from speaking English and worsening the effect, he's just trying to drown it out with babble in this other language.
But they have this great conversation, and again, they're speaking French now.
Yes.
About, like,
Which
are they speaking French now?
They are speaking French. They keep slipping into English because Grant doesn't know French
He knows
that well.
Un petit.
He knows un petit. But they are both Canadian, so they're passingly okay with French.
But Grant's argument is that Sydney killed the kid, so she should also kill the doctor.
Yes.
And then Sydney says, no, you killed the kid. And Grant's like, okay, I killed the kid, so you should kill the doctor. Grant's still an asshole. Like, he's still...
But
let's say we were in this situation.
Sure.
You would make me kill that doctor, wouldn't you? You'd be like, you're the more fucked up one. You gotta kill him.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't think I would.
You would volunteer to kill him?
I wouldn't want to. I think I would be in a very similar situation to them, where like it's very relatable. Like in movies, in zombie movies, usually you have a character who starts out as an everyman, and then like within 2 seconds of being in the zombie apocalypse is a knife wielding badass. In real life, it would be like this. It would be like a lot of hemming and hawing over like, can we take a life? Obviously, in the heat of battle, when someone jumps you, it's much easier to go into fight or flight. But when you're looking at another person that might become a threat to you, trying to make that calculation in your head, that's a much more difficult question. And both of them are dealing with that. And Grant, to his credit, in the end, finally says, like, I will kill the doctor.
The lights go out. When the power comes back on, the French national anthem, which I cannot pronounce the actual name of, is playing. Made famous by Casablanca. That's where they got it from.
That's where they got it from.
The French were like, that's a good song. Let's make that our whole shebang. They hide in a tool room with the doctor slipping in behind them. But soon he goes out the window, drawing the crowd away. Yes. DJM, good guy hero in the end.
He runs out and he yells out, Sidney Brier is alive! Sidney Brier is alive! Drawing them away.
Great little detail. Sydney is scrawling a confession about killing the girl on the wall.
Yes, but before that, there's like a cutaway to a couple of other establishing shots to establish that they've now been in this tool room for a while.
Yes,
and one of those shots is a shot of word magnets.
Oh yeah,
on a wall, including the phrase "always eat meat."
Yes,
which I found fun.
Sydney gets drunk off some single malt. Which, I don't know if you ever had single malt whiskey.
I have not.
Oh my God, so good.
Is it?
It's if I ever got like super rich, like Elon Musk rich,
right,
I would just have a faucet in my home that dispensed single malt whiskey.
Okay.
And I would drink that instead of water, and I would die in 2 years. Like, I would just get fully cirrhosis-ed.
Right, yeah.
Most people get cirrhosis of the liver. I'd get cirrhosis of the lungs. Just from inhaling single malt fumes all day.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to point out is there is a poster in the closet with them advertising a local band that's performing called Hyena Dog Robbery.
Oh, yeah. I saw that, too. I didn't make note of it, but it's...
Which is the best band name.
And again, incomprehensible...
Yeah.
Language.
Incomprehensible language.
Grant is listening to his interview with Nigel Healing. Grant figures it out. The virus spreads by understanding a word, so how do you not understand a word? By repeating it, making it unrecognizable.
Which is why the conversationalists are always repeating words, because it's an immune response.
Yes.
They're trying to make the words meaningless to get them out of their head.
And again, a brilliant idea, like... What other zombie movie has considered the body's immune response to the virus? Well, granted, they're usually dead, so there is no immune response, but...
Right, but like, yeah, no, that never comes up, because it's just like, you're bitten and you're done.
Yeah. Sydney is infected, she keeps repeating the word kill. Grant tells her that kill isn't kill.
Which is very well set up, because she keeps saying the word kill long before you realize that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because she's drinking a lot, and she's obsessed with her guilt over killing this child.
Yes.
Yeah.
He tells her that kill is different words, finally ending on kiss. Kill is kiss. And they kiss.
Yes. She says, kill me, and he kisses her, which is... That's great.
It's very cute.
That's cute. It's really
very
good.
Cute.
That's really good. Also, again, married in real life. It's adorbs.
And again, this kiss felt organic. It felt real. It felt earned. This is not the kiss in Rise of Skywalker, where it's just like, Yeah, let's make them kiss. Why not?
Yeah, let's just make them kiss.
So Grant cures Sydney. They go back into the booth. They're going to save the fucking world.
Yes.
Sydney is not for it. She's sort of...
Like, sure, why not, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, what are we going to do?
And he begins his
And
broadcast.
he doesn't really have a plan either. He's all full of gusto, but he has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah. He's just, I need to do my job as a radio man. Mm-hmm. Here's my he begins his broadcast. And here's the big question of this movie.
Yeah.
I want to put this to you.
Okay.
What if this movie were the same, except instead of Grant Mazzy, it was Samuel L. Jackson as Senior Love Daddy from Do the Right Thing?
Right.
How amazing would that fucking be?
That would be amazing. He would be less, because he'd just be going from like some neighborhood in Brooklyn to some neighborhood up in Canada. He would be much less like annoyed at his circumstances, I think, than Grant Mazzy. But he would be just as entertaining.
All you zombies need to chill out!
Exactly. He'd be amazing. He'd be absolutely amazing.
Grant begins giving alternatives for words, and Sydney, God bless her heart, still a producer to the very end, tells him he's fucking up.
Their relationship hasn't changed that much.
Nope, and he's rolling with it. He's taking the notes. The military is outside. We hear choppers. Grant screams at everybody to stop.
Well, the people they think that he's infected because the things he's saying don't make sense to them, and that they haven't figured out how it works. They just know that people stop making sense when they're infected, so they think he's infected.
Just like the Talking Heads.
Right, exactly. But here's where the message of the movie, in my opinion, comes full circle.
With Grant's bit,
where they hear them. Sydney specifically says they're just shooting everyone. They don't care what we're doing. They're just shooting everyone. They're bombing everyone, and he yells everything to stop.
And he has the great lines: "You're just killing scared people. It's what you always do. You're like dogs. You smell fear and you pounce."
I want to make it clear, when he yells stop, in the most theatrical moment of the movie, it actually does stop. Like the bombs, the guns, everything stops, and he doesn't deliver this in shouting like Peter Capaldi as the Doctor yelling at people. He delivers it.
It's stern.
He brings it back. He brings it down, and he's like, "You're just killing scared people.
It's what you always do." Grant is doing his take no prisoner shtick in a way that finally works and
finally
is used for
something.
good.
Yeah.
And he's strong and powerful. He is, to borrow a phrase from Henry Rollins, he is stentorian from the mountain. It's not the end of the world, folks. It's just the end of the day.
And he says, we were never making sense. We were never making sense. Here's where I think the movie comes together. Into this thing I've been alluding to. We find out that Laurel Ann was in Afghanistan, and he talks about, again, like, his idea of marketing his show is by marketing
anger,
repulsion, reactionary repulsion, all this stuff, and he wants people to react off of what he's giving out negatively so that they will come back to him and it, again, pass it around like a viral thing, a virus. I believe that this movie is, at the end of the day, about the failure of the modern day media and how it contributed to the panic after 9/11 that was able to be utilized by bad actors to get us into the war on terror.
Okay.
The conversationalist thing, it's a horrible thing that's happening. There's a horrible thing that's happening. You need to get that word out. Of course you do. But when it's more important for you to just, like, get words out and just sort of, like, spill out like Nigel Healing is, you're just creating panic. You're like Sydney accuses him of. You're just creating panic. You're creating a bad system where everyone is isolated. Everyone's in their own little bubble, going insane, listening to all this crazy, unconfirmed shit coming in over the wire, and not knowing, like, the first 24 hours after 9/11, nobody knew what the fuck was going on, including in Canada. People were fucking terrified. And in the end, when he figures out what's going on, and he figures out the simple way to handle everything. He's in the end, he tells them, I don't believe that he's talking about the situation in the movie. I believe he's literally talking about Iraq. He's talking about, we didn't go over there to fight terror. We went over there and started killing mothers and fathers and children.
Yes.
And so he's saying, you're just killing scared people. That's what you always do. You're like a dog.
You're like dogs. You smell fear and you pounce.
We were never making sense. And, but it's not the end of the world. 9/11 was not the end of the world. It's just the end of the day. And I'm still here, you fuckers.
No, it's I'm still here, you cocksuckers.
I'm still here, you cocksuckers. And at the end of the day,
such a great, powerful moment.
And I would say, yes, it is strong. It is powerful, but it is strong and it is powerful because it is coming from a place of not manipulation.
No.
Or authority. It's coming from a place of
genuine
compassion.
Yeah.
And that is what is powerful, is not one isolated great man. It is connection.
Yes.
Which is what modern media, as many people have argued, the global village, as I believe Marshall McLuhan once put it, has isolated us and made us ironically less able to communicate effectively than ever before.
I think a lot of that is probably the intention of the filmmakers. I think you're onto something. I think you're absolutely right.
And I put this together in my head like right before he got into his speech.
Yeah.
And I'm about to right now. I was fully crying.
I'm actually getting a little worked up too talking about it. It's such a wonderful, powerful moment where a character and an actor we love is just, everything is firing on all pistons. The writing, the acting, the camera work. It's
every monologue that Grant Mazzy has in this movie is one of the best monologues in movie history.
This
is the greatest monologue in movie history. Like, at least a contender. Like, holy fucking shit.
This movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
This movie is a masterpiece. Grant finishes his broadcast. French authorities start a countdown. As it reaches 1, Sidney kisses Grant, and we get credits. Now, after the movie, there's a weird little black and white epilogue that slowly fades into color, seemingly set outside the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know that... You just sort of have to see it. I don't know that I can properly explain it.
We talked about this in the last episode, and we came up with an answer for what it is.
Okay.
I don't remember if this is something that you found the director talking about, or like a theory you found online.
Okay.
But the idea that you had, or somebody had, when we were talking about this last time, is that it's an antidote for the movie.
Okay, yes. Because I think on Wikipedia they say that they're talking in improvised dialogue. It's a way... Now I remember this.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's such a non sequitur. They're in a sushi house. Lisa Hool is in sort of like a cheongsam. It's not a kimono.
Oh, sorry.
It's some sort of cheongsam like dress.
I have not heard that word before. So.
Okay, it's not important.
Okay.
And they're just saying this nonsense. Like it sort of makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in context to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But this is the nonsense to cure us from the movie.
Yeah.
I rewatched most of the commentary for this episode, but I didn't have time to finish it.
Sure.
But I believe that the director and writer sort of insinuate that.
Because if the conversationalist virus, assuming that the conversationalist virus is real.
Yes.
By understanding it, and by understanding the meaning behind the words used to explain it in the movie, you've been infected.
And now you need this bit of nonsense to uninfect you.
So like Monty Python curing cats by confusing them, this scene is there to confuse you. Unfortunately, by now explaining that, we have now made sense.
Yes.
And now everyone who's listened to this podcast will die in 7 days.
But I want to mention my favorite line from this bit. We steal the loot and knock boots in the free world.
Oh my God, so good.
So this episode is going very long, so I'm going to make this fast. There were planned sequels for Pontypool, as I mentioned. Pontypool changes, and Pontypool changes everything. More violent and perverse. They seem to still hope to make these movies, but there is a spin-off based on the last bit.
Just that
the
last
epilogue
confusing bit, yeah.
Called Dreamland, which came out in 2020, I believe.
Yes.
Do not watch it because you love Pontypool.
No.
Because you are not going to get Pontypool.
No.
You're going to get more Steve McHattie.
Yes.
Which is always good.
And
he plays a dual role.
And you're getting more of the actress who played Sydney.
Lisa Houle.
Lisa Houle's in it.
Yes. It has a lot of potential. It does not live up to that potential. Still worth seeing. Support the actor and the creators.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, Billy, is there anything else you would like to say very quickly about Pontypool?
Summer is a twittering bird that logically smells like magic.
Agreed. Magic Johnson. Next week, we hope to have superfan Steven on.
Yes.
To talk about hackers. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
If not, Billy will bring us something equally juicy, I'm sure.
I'll pull something out of my ass.
All right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.